And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Epps versus Ward. Step forward, please.
24-year-old bus driver Matisha Epps is suing her former friend, 22-year-old college student Melinda Ward, for an unpaid loan for a car.
Well, there's certain things, Miss Epps, in your complaint that I understand and some that I'm a little confused about. So let me start with what I do understand. You tell me if I'm correct. This was a friend of yours?
No, this is my cousin's girlfriend.
But she was a friend of yours?
Yeah.
And she wanted to buy a car?
Yes.
And she asked you for a loan for the down payment on the car?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you wrote out a check for the dealership for how much money? $2,500?
$2,500.
And you post-dated the check?
Yes, Your Honor.
She said to you, according to your complaint, don't worry, by the time the date comes when the check is going to be deposited, I will have enough money so that I'll give it to you and the check will be covered.
No, Your Honor. She's supposed to pay it to the finance company.
So she was going to pay it herself so that they would never cash your check?
Exactly, Your Honor.
Well, she didn't do that.
No.
And they cashed your check?
Exactly.
And you were forced to make good on that check?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Ward says she called you before the time that they cashed your check and told you to put a stop payment on the check because she wasn't going to be able to come up with the money.
Yes, my ex-fiance called Matisha Epps a week prior to October 21st and asked her to place stop payment on the check. For whatever reason, she didn't do so.
Just a second, because you weren't going to have the money.
Yes.
Did he ever call you?
Yes, Your Honor, he did.
And what did he say when he called you?
He told me that they weren't going to have the money yet, and so I could put a stop payment on the check.
And why didn't you do that?
It was just like a couple of days in advance. I don't believe it was a week in advance. It was just like maybe a couple of days in advance when he called and told me that they weren't going to have the money. And by the time that I called the bank, it was too late. They had posted the check.
But he called you before.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you stop payment on it? Why didn't you call immediately that day?
I work 6 days a week and I work long hours.
If you work 6 days a week and long hours, it would seem to me that $2,500 is important to you. So now I understand, and I understand that you made the call. Did you, in fact, buy that car? Is not an answer.
Okay. Yes, I did buy the car.
Good. So you got the benefit of her $2,500. Is that right?
Yes.
So what difference does it make? What are you? Are you stupid? Is he stupid? If you said to me I couldn't afford to buy the car, and I didn't buy the car, but you bought the car using her $2,500, and now you don't think that you have to pay her back?
Well, had she have placed stop payment on the check, I wouldn't have even had the car.
Just a sec. You're some piece of work. Now, what kind of moral character do you think that I believe that you have because you didn't pay her back the $2,500?
I tried.
What do you mean you tried? What does that mean you tried?
Well, after the check went through, my ex-fiance and I attempted to give her $200 in which she could have put towards the check. She said she didn't want anything to do with it. Yeah. She gave us the number to call whoever the financial company that was dealing with the check. They didn't want to deal with us because it was her check. So we definitely tried.
Well, you're making payments now on the car, aren't you?
No, I don't have the car anymore.
Where is it?
It got totaled in an accident.
When?
Last July.
You think I should believe everything you're telling me?
I don't have a reason to lie.
Go ahead.
I also like to say, this is my cousin, Miss Epps is my cousin. I went to her house. We did the best we could, honestly.
No, you didn't. You did the best you could. You were driving around in a car that she paid for. The best you could is to pay her back the $2,500.
That's what I'm saying. When we realized that we weren't going to have all the money, we went to talk with her. We contacted her, and we also went to talk with her about that. I went to her with money in my hand. She said because, like she said, because she works and everything, I was under the impression that she didn't want to deal with it. She told me to deal with it, the best way I could.
Did you ever hear the expression "no good deed goes unpunished"?
Yes.
That's what happened. They are two amoral people. I was sympathetic with them at first. If he called and said, listen, we don't have the money, and you didn't get around to calling and putting a stop payment on the check, but then they went ahead and bought the car and paid for it. How long did you drive that car before it was totaled?
A year.
And during that year, if they had said, every month I'm going to give you $200, you would have had your money.
Yes.
You didn't do that, did you?
Well,
The answer is yes or no. Did you do that?
We wasn't allowed to. No, we wasn't allowed to, Your Honor. If I can explain to you.
No, you can't explain to me.
Okay.
You mean to tell me that if every month you put $200 in an envelope and left it in her mailbox, that she would have taken the $100 bills and thrown them away? Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
No.
What kind of work do you do?
Right now, I'm a,
What kind of work do you do?
Actually, I'm unemployed right now.
Right.
I was a custodian.
Right, you're unemployed right now. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Your Honor, this is case number 75 on the calendar in the matter of Hertz versus Gonzalez. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Miss Hertz, your father was a doctor?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of a doctor was he?
He was a chiropractic physician, ma'am.
And he passed away in April, is that
March
right?
28th.
According to your complaint, your father had a medical practice and his landlord was the defendant.
No, ma'am. Mr. Gonzalez is the strip mall building manager.
Okay, he was the manager of the building.
Yes, ma'am.
And you tried to get into your father's office in order to retrieve his files after his death.
Yes, ma'am, according to probate code.
Just answer my questions. Mr. Gonzalez would not let you into the building or your father's office when you wanted to get into the office, and it is your claim that because you could not get into the office at an appropriate time, you lost a substantial amount of money because you could have sold those files to another doctor if you had been able to do it sooner, and you're seeking damages in the amount of $5,000. Mr. Gonzalez has a reason that he says that he did not allow you to remove the files when you wanted to. He's counterclaiming for defamation because he says that you're bad-mouthing him to other people, calling him a tyrant. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to forget about your counterclaim. Forget about the counterclaim. But we're going to get to the plaintiff's claim, which I find rather interesting. All right, your father died. Did he die suddenly on March 28th?
No, ma'am. He entered the hospital with viral pneumonia on March 23rd and passed away on March 28th.
How old a man was he?
He had been 84 for 6 weeks.
Had he been in full-time practice up until the time he got sick?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, on what date was the first date that you tried to get into his office?
I arrived in Los Angeles April 3rd in the evening.
On April 3rd?
Yes, ma'am. I was unable to get here sooner than that because of
So you
business.
were not here when your father died?
No, ma'am.
You were not here when he was in the hospital?
No, ma'am.
Where do you live?
Chicago.
Well, were you advised that he was sick and in the hospital on the 23rd of March?
Yes, ma'am. However, my father was always a very strong, healthy person. We're into natural health and healing. And we never expected him to be, we never expected this to happen.
How many children are there?
Just myself.
So who was with him when he was in the hospital? Nobody?
No one.
Oh. So you got here after your father died?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get here after the funeral?
No, ma'am. The service, I went to the mortuary on April 4th, identified his body at the hospital, took him to the mortuary, and made the arrangements then. We had a memorial service for him.
Just a minute. So he died on March 28th, 28th, 29th, 30th, April 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. 7 days later,
yes, ma'am.
You managed to find a way to come from Chicago to Los Angeles.
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't sound like a hell of a lot of devotion for me because all the healing didn't help him. He died on March 28th.
We never expected him to die. We thought he would be back in the office.
He did die.
Yes,
on March 28th. What took you 7 days to travel from Chicago to Los Angeles?
I had to make arrangements to take care of my apartment and as well as my birds. And I also had business arrangements to make.
And what did you do when you got here on the 4th of April?
Went to the office building in order to start taking inventory of the office.
Okay. Now, at that point, had you had anything from the probate court giving you the authority to go in there?
Ma'am, the estate was under $100,000. No court supervision was necessary according to probate code 13100, etc.
Were you armed with that information when you came to the office?
No, ma'am.
So, Mr. Gonzalez wouldn't let you in?
No, ma'am.
Good. That's exactly what he should have done. Should not have let you in to go through anything. He doesn't know who you are. As far as he knows, There's a will, and he left all of his estate and all of his property to Goodwill. He doesn't know if you have authority. You may be his only child, but he may not have liked you. So he could have left all of his property to somebody else. Isn't that right?
My father died intestate.
He doesn't know that. So you went there on the 4th of April, and he said you can't come in. What happened next?
Mr. Gonzalez had been apprised by a volunteer that worked for my father as a
Don't
volunteer.
tell me what he had been apprised in hearsay conversation with anybody. He has a tenant who died, leaving property in their office, and he is liable if, perchance, they find a will of your father's that says, I leave all of my possessions to whatever medical school he went to, whatever university he went to. And you go in there and you say, I'm his daughter, I'm entitled to everything. How does he know that you're entitled to anything? You had nothing from a court.
At that time, no.
Fine. When did you go back?
I received a phone call on April 13th, Saturday, from Mr. Gonzalez telling me that he was putting all of my father's possessions, office possessions, into storage, which I would be responsible for paying for. And if any of the movers hurt themselves, I would also be responsible for their medical bills. Mr. Gonzalez,
He can't do that either.
Mr. Gonzalez,
If he did it, he can't do that either, because you're not responsible for anything. You're not responsible financially for anything, and you're not responsible if these movers get hurt schlepping the files. So if he said that to you, he's 100% wrong. So far, I got a lot of lawyers here. Go ahead. So that's April 13th.
I was also told that my father's files, patient files, needed to be put into storage for 7 years by another practitioner. He gave me the names and phone numbers of 2 chiropractors who would be happy to store my father's files.
Fine. So you said no, thank you. Well,
the files are the heart of the business. They're a sacred trust, and they are saleable items.
Ms. Hertz, let's get on with it. Stop with, you're pulling at my heartstrings. It took you 7 days to get from Chicago to Los Angeles. It was more important to take care of your birds than it was to come to say goodbye to your father. I have very little sympathy for that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
My father overpaid on his last month's rent.
Get on with it. That's not what you're suing him for. You keep making things up as you're going along, madam.
And later today,
I don't know how long you've been drinking, but I would guess, based upon my experience in the court, that you've been drinking a long time. That's not the way to bring up a child.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Marcia Hertz says when her father passed away, building manager Miguel Gonzalez kept her from retrieving files from his business.
April 13th, he said he's putting the stuff in storage. What did you do next?
On the 15th, I arrived at the office early in the morning to make sure that the removal of my father's property did not happen. 7:30 in the morning, Mr. Gonzalez knocked on the door wanting me to sign a piece of paper. I refused to do so because there were no copies of it. He told me that he would make copies of this paper after I had signed it. And I said, no, make copies first. He wouldn't tell me what it was. Next thing he said was that he was going to call the LAPD to have me arrested for trespassing. They arrived 5 minutes later
and
threatened me with arrest that if I did not sign this piece of paper. I was bullied and coerced into signing it. It turned out to be a release of tenancy by April 30th, which gave me the entire month of April to remove my father's possessions, not by April 15th.
Okay, so?
Well, the tenant paid the rent for the month of April, which gave me until April 30th.
Well, that's what that says. You have until the 30th.
Yes, ma'am.
So?
And I did not have a problem with that.
So?
However, in here, because of the if I may continue?
Go ahead.
Because of the termination of the month-to-month tenancy is terminated by the death of the tenant, landlord is permitting Marcy Hertz, on behalf of and as representative of the estate of Albert Hertz, hereinafter Marcy Hertz, to enter the property for the sole purpose of removing possessions of the tenant. Marcy Hertz takes full responsibility for all property removed from the premises, including but not limited to the chiropractic records contained herein.
Ms. Hertz, I don't get the problem, madam. I don't get the problem at all. You signed something that says you take full responsibility for the files as a representative of the estate, even though he doesn't know you're a representative of the estate. And you have to be out of the premises by April 30th.
Which is the reason I was here. However, on April 13th, he threatened to remove the contents of Dad's office.
So? He didn't.
No, he did not.
So what? What are you here for?
I'm here because my father overpaid on his last month's rent back in 1987.
That's not part of your claim. That's not part of your claim.
All right.
Then what are you here for?
I'm here because the overpayment was more than 50% of what his current rent was, which would have given me into the middle of May to sell the files.
Get on with it. That's not what you're suing him for. You keep making things up as you're going along, madam.
Excuse me, ma'am. The value of the files decreases every day. The goodwill.
So?
The files are now worthless.
Listen, you were able to get the files as of April 15th. Is that right?
Ma'am, I was able to gain entrance to the office.
You were able, once you signed that document, assuming responsibility, on April 15th, you were able to get the files. Is that right or wrong?
You are correct, ma'am.
Good. And you say that because you weren't able to go and get the files either on the 4th or the 8th, the value of the files diminished because it took an extra week. Is that right?
I had to find another chiropractor to take my father's practice over.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Each day of his passing, the files diminish.
Then Miss Hertz, I would have suggested that if that's the way you felt, you should have made it your business to get there a week earlier after your father died. Because if you had gotten there on the 28th, you would have resolved this matter by the 8th of April.
No,
but you chose to take care of your birds instead of coming and taking care of your father's business, and you want somebody else to be responsible for that. It's ludicrous. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She was going around my neighborhood with my peers saying that I am mafia connected, that I have LAPD people in my pocket, intimidating her.
I knew very well who I was before I even came down. We were in telephone contact prior to my coming down here.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Mason Wilson versus Wilson. Step forward, please.
Thomas Mason and his fiancée, Joanne Wilson, are suing Joanne's son, 21-year-old fast food worker Jesse Wilson. Joanne says during an argument, Jesse assaulted her.
You're Miss Wilson.
Yes.
Is that right? And this is your boyfriend. His name is Mason.
Yes, that's correct.
And this is your son.
Yes.
And it is your claim that your son assaulted you, which resulted in your hospitalization. You want him to pay for any unreimbursed medical costs that you had, as well as for something for pain and suffering. I don't know what Mr. Mason is doing here unless he paid some of the bills. Did you, sir?
I paid them, Your Honor, yes.
You paid them? That's why you're here. Your son says that he didn't assault you, that you fell over a table because you were drunk. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did this incident occur?
January 15th. Yeah.
Where?
In my house.
Who was at home?
I was at home. He was there. In fact, he was leaving that day.
Who was he?
My son. And
leaving permanently?
Yeah.
Why?
He was moving out.
Why?
Well, he thought $25 a week was too much. He said he should pay nothing to live with me.
How old is he?
He's 21.
Go ahead. So what
So
happened?
we got into argument that night, and
What did you get into an argument about?
miscellaneous things, and I quite don't remember. I remember falling, and I remember him picking me up, and he was saying sorry to me. He said, "Ma, I'm sorry," and he put me on the couch. After that, I don't remember nothing, except when going to the hospital, they had to put the thing around my neck. They had me in a board, and then they had to rush me from that hospital to another hospital.
The only thing you remember is him picking you up, saying...
I remember him saying, "Ma, I'm sorry." He picked me up and put me on the couch. And then I woke up later on, and my boyfriend came later that night, and he made me go to the hospital. I wasn't going to the hospital. I was dizzy and everything, but I told him I would be fine. And he told me, no, I think you better go to the hospital. Something don't look right.
Had you been drinking?
Yeah, I had been drinking.
How much?
I had maybe a half a pint that night.
Half a pint of what?
Rum.
What time did you start drinking?
It was about 6 o'clock that night.
Do you drink every night?
No.
How often do you drink?
I drink on a weekend, occasionally on weekends.
You have a drinking problem?
No.
You have anything to drink today?
No.
All right, Mr. Wilson. Your mother says that you said sorry. You want to tell me what happened?
I had came home from work at the time of the day of my birthday, and
This was your birthday?
yes, my birthday. I had came home, right, and she was drunk because I smelled it on her breath. Me and her got into an argument over how stuff was going in the house. I told her
Like
I have
what?
like me, sometimes I might leave something around the house, something like a cup or a plate or something. I understand sometimes I do intend to forget stuff, but I always do what I have to do in the house, you know? And when she kicked me out, I was getting all my belongings, and she had grabbed me.
Where did she grab you?
She grabbed me in my left arm, and when I told her, can you get off me, she did not want to let go. And when I took my arm like that to get her off me, she had fell back and lost her balance.
You didn't hit her, did you?
No, I would never assault my mother.
You never put your hands on her?
No.
Well, she doesn't remember what happened. All she remembers is falling and you saying you're sorry. So what are we doing here? Mr. Mason, what are we doing here, sir?
Well, Your Honor, this has been going on for quite a while. It isn't this the first time. He broke a window once before in the house because he got mad.
But
I have bills here, and I have the original letter that I wrote to him, gave him plenty of time. All I was looking for was my original amount of money that I put out.
For what?
For the expenses of what it costs to take her to the hospital.
Just a minute. There's no proof he assaulted her, sir.
Well, I had asked her what happened when I came home. She called up this friend of mine. I was at his house, and I came home. She had told me what happened, that Jesse had pushed her, and I said, you best you go to the hospital, get checked out. We went to one hospital, and they needed better equipment. They had to transfer her to another hospital, and they weren't sure if she would be paralyzed from the neck down or not. And like I said, it's not a question of just now. It's been a question of a problem with the $25 a week that he's paying rent. We're going to get television, the telephone, the whole thing over here for $25 a week. And then he wanted to live for nothing.
How long have the two of you been living together?
Over 2.5 years.
And whose house is it?
It's her apartment.
It's her apartment?
Yeah.
And he's not
So
on the lease.
just a second. So you're living in her apartment?
Half and half, Your Honor. I have my own apartment right around the corner.
What do you mean half and half?
I stay sometimes, a lot of times. I stay on the average 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks at a time.
Listen to me. It's none of your business.
Okay?
This is between Miss Wilson and her son. Has nothing to do with you. Nothing. As far as I'm concerned, Miss Wilson shouldn't be here with her son today. She had a little too much to drink, and if she got into even a shoving match with her son and she fell, that's unfortunate. Probably was tipsy to begin with and fell. She shouldn't be fighting with her son. She shouldn't be fighting with her son on his birthday. And you shouldn't pour salt in the wound because you're not family. You don't precipitate coming to court when you're not even related. Precipitate a mother from bringing a lawsuit against a child. That doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't let anybody pressure you into bringing a lawsuit against your son, which you probably wouldn't have done on your own.
No, but I think he deserves it, especially when he busted my window. I wasn't even supposed to let him live with me. Housing don't want him there because he got kicked out of his sister's house because of the same problem.
Miss Wilson, let me tell you something. I'm not giving him any stars for good behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long you've been drinking, but I would guess, based upon my experience in the courts, that you've been drinking a long time. Long time.
Okay.
That's not the way to bring up a child. So if you have a child that is troubled at age 20, you look to yourself and say, what did I do as a mother? Was I drinking most of the time? Was I doing the right thing most of the time? And if you were not, you don't precipitate a lawsuit because you set zero example for him. Just want you to think about that. Your lawsuit's dismissed.
You two on the calendar in the matter of Hill versus Johnston.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Ms. Hill, it is your claim that the defendant was negligent in taking care of the cats that he was supposed to be sitting for while you were on vacation. You had vet bills, you wanted to pay for emotional distress, for damage done to your apartment, all to the tune of $5,000.
Yep.
Mr. Johnson says he did the best he could under the circumstances. When did you make this arrangement with Mr. Johnston to take care of your cats?
This would be probably in about July of last year.
And how many cats do you have?
At that time, I had 21.
21 cats, and how large a space?
I think the house is about 2,000 square feet.
And how did you know the defendant?
He was my boyfriend at the time, and actually he insisted on watching the cats. He was at my house almost every night, and he went through my feeding rituals and everything, and because he was my boyfriend, and we'd spoken about getting married or living together. It was just, that's what he wanted to do, and that was fine with me because we were...
Where were you going?
I was going to Connecticut to visit my relatives.
So this was voluntary on his part. You weren't paying him to do this. He was doing it because he cared about you.
Right.
Why don't you tell me why you think he is responsible for any damage and what the damage was in your house as a result of his caring for your cats?
Okay. When he came to the airport to pick me up in my car, which I had never given him permission to drive.
That's not true.
When I came home and I opened the door, I also have a dog. The dog was not very happy to see me. When I opened the door to the main part of the house, I didn't see any cats. There were no cats that would come out to see me, and I was concerned about that because they're very happy. They love me and I love them. Well, bit by bit, I came upon them, and after about an hour, I found one cat, and I didn't find all of them. It turns out 6 were missing. In the end count, 6 were gone. I found one, and something was wrong with its tail. There was blood on it. And I said, "What happened to my cat?" He said, "I don't know. I don't know." So I went through the house, still, trying to find what happened, find them. And then he told me that one of them had died when I was gone. And I got very upset because I said, I was not told. Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you tell me, what happened? He said, "I just came home and it was dead." So I did at that point, I was very upset. I was actually getting hysterical. I didn't want him around. I wanted him to leave my house. I was screaming at him to leave the house. He wouldn't leave. Eventually what he did is to make me be quiet. He pushed me. I pushed away from him, wound up on the floor, and he was choking me, and he was cutting off my air supply. And he said that, I can't remember if he said he would break my neck or he would kill me if I didn't stop screaming. I couldn't get him to leave my house. I went into my living room and I locked the door, and I just stayed in there. I don't know where I don't know if he slept in his van or what, but anyway, that was Saturday night, Sunday morning. The next day was Labor Day. I couldn't take the cat to the vet. The day after that, I take my cats. There are 2 cats. Both of these cats had been mutilated and abused, and I have pictures if you want to see them. There's a series of pictures. It's how they were before I left and what happened when I came back. They had to have several operations. One of them almost lost his leg. Several of the cats have had their teeth knocked out. I found this about...
Were the cats fighting with each other? Were they having cat fights?
He said that they were...
Shh, I'm asking you.
I have not seen... Oh, no, when I came back? No.
You have pictures of destruction in the house?
Yes.
You think that he destroyed things in your house?
Yes.
Let me tell you this. Right. I don't want you to be nutty about this. He didn't volunteer to take care of your cats to torture them. Something happened with your 21 cats and 1 dog when you were gone. But if you think that his intentions were to get you out of your house so that he could mutilate your 21 cats and dogs, that's demented. Do you understand?
Yes.
So you don't think he did that, right?
No, that was not.
So you think that something happened and things got totally out of control for him?
Yes.
Fair statement?
Yes.
That he bit off more cats than he could take care of. Right? And didn't know quite how to deal with it. I'm an animal lover, so I understand how hysterical you were when you came home. Was she hysterical, sir?
I wouldn't put it quite so mildly.
Mr. Johnson, you were the one who picked her. You were the one who volunteered to take care of 21 cats and a dog. I mean, you got to be a little bit bonkers to do that. That's a lot of responsibility, especially. I read your answer. You said a couple of these cats were crazy. They had to be kept in a room separate from everybody else and be fed separate, And even the plaintiff talked about in her testimony her feeding ritual.
Yep.
Which is, you had a couple of cats that were a little more aggressive.
There's an order to who eats, so they make sure that
if they eat out of order, it's havoc.
It's havoc. Well,
Ms. Hill. I'm supposed to eat all. You see, there's got 20 cats going at each other.
You decided to assume the responsibility, Mr. Johnson.
I thought they were just little cats.
Mr. Johnson, you were there.
I know.
So you assumed the responsibility.
They're loving to her.
They weren't crazy about you.
Well, half of them were. The other half, My God.
Mr. Johnson, let me ask you this question. I don't want you to tell me everything that went on, because I have a few things after reading your answer. And, you know, we're not going to go on with this forever. I want to know, once you started to realize that you were over your head with this one, why didn't you call her in Connecticut and say you better come home?
Fear.
Fear of what?
Not following through with something that I had promised. We had talked about serious commitment and what goes along with that. And to be honest with you, I've never had a successful serious commitment in my life. And there's no way I was going to fail at this. That's why I insisted, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it right.
But you couldn't.
No, I couldn't.
But you realized that you couldn't early on, so that you have to call her and you have to say, I cannot.
We talked every day. She goes, how are the babies? And she's talking about the cats, like her children. Oh, they're fine.
So you lied to her.
Yeah.
So you
Otherwise, she's going to get on the plane, come down, and probably kill me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Either you did it on purpose or you did it because you were stupid. Which one was it?
I had 3 baseball buddies over one evening.
That's stupid.
And later today.
Did you ever hear the expression, no good deed goes unpunished?
Yes.
That's what happened. They are 2 amoral people.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lee Hill says ex-boyfriend James Johnston was negligent while taking care of her 21 cats. James says the whole ordeal was a nightmare.
There was some flooding that's talked about. And in your answer, Mr. Johnston, you say, I was running a bath, but ended up getting very distracted by the precise feeding procedure I was to follow. The next thing I knew...
It was a book.
There was water all over the place.
Do you know how long it takes to feed 21 cats?
Just a minute. I'm asking
like
a question.
5 hours.
Just a second. What were you doing? Mr. Johnson, who were you bathing?
Me. I was getting ready to... I got there about 9:30 at night. I had worked all day. It was
Just
hot.
So you were staying at her house?
Yeah. We were basically living together. Unofficially.
Just a second. Unofficially, I don't care. I just didn't know why you were running a bath when you were supposed to be feeding the cats, so you were living there.
I'm walking around naked, got the water going. I'm getting things ready.
I understand. So he was living in your house?
Yes.
All right. He was living in your house, and he had the keys to your car.
No, I never gave him the keys to my car.
Well, you must have left him home.
On the dresser.
No.
You mean he hot-wired your car?
No. When I came back, this person went through everything in my house.
That's not true.
And the key which was in a drawer. The reason I didn't say to him, you could drive the car, is because he doesn't have a good driving record. My insurance doesn't cover him. And it would be better not to go into that, make a mess out of that. I don't give him the key, he can't drive the car.
All right. Miss Hill, I think Mr. Johnson had the obligation, once he assumed the responsibility, to perform it properly. And if he could not, which he realized right away, according to him,
Third day.
he had the obligation to tell you when he spoke to you, day one, listen, you better get somebody else here to take care of your cats because I can't do it. And he chose not to do that.
Yeah.
Now I'll see your vet bills.
Okay.
How many cats do you have now?
I have 18.
A lot of cats.
I have a few other questions or statements to make.
Go ahead.
If you do want to take care of them, I don't know how this is good taking care of a cat. I have part of the other part of that broom with cat fur on it. I don't understand how that is good taking care of anything well. Running the bath that runs over, that floods the clothes, ruins the clothes, ruins shoes. I have some boots here that were ruined, that were in the closet on the floor. I also have a box of photographs, just like my family when I was younger. It was in a big box, like a boot box, in a closet. I came back, and I kept finding things up until, for months I've been finding things. And I find a wet bath towel that was put in the box, closed in the box, and put in the closet. I don't understand why this was done. This has nothing to do with the cats. This to me is malicious. I don't know why he did it, but he did it.
Maybe he's just stupid.
That's not what. Well, for taking
Just a second. Just a second. Either you did it on purpose or you did it because you were stupid. Which one was it?
I had 3 baseball buddies over one evening.
That's stupid.
Yeah, I got out of hand.
So either you did it on purpose or you did it because it was stupid. It was stupid. If you had 3 baseball buddies and one of them acted like an idiot, that's your fault.
2 of them did.
I also requested that nobody come to the house for the simple reason that there are a lot of cats. And the more people that are there, the more doors are left open, the more chaos there can be. So
Nobody
I said,
believed me about the amount of cats. I had to show them.
I also have estimates for the carpeting.
I'm not considering that. You left him in your house. He was living with you. That's your problem. You picked somebody who's unreliable. That's your problem. Vet bills are something else because this was a separate and unique thing. He said he would take care of your cats. That was your arrangement with him.
Yes.
If he couldn't do that, he had a responsibility, and the responsibility was either to board them or call her and say, get on the plane to come home.
There was one other option available that I wish I had taken.
Which was?
Her mother. She was a phone call away. She called me every day to make sure everything was okay.
Well, then you could have done that too, but she shouldn't have any out-of-pocket expenses because of your negligence in taking care of the cats. That was your agreement with her. And you have to take care of it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,389. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The cat's tail got hurt because it was in a fight, and I yanked it out.
Then later on, he said he accidentally electrocuted it.
I did what I could under the circumstances.
He's got a, was it a medical valor or a Purple Heart? I can't remember which. So, I mean, I don't believe it.
If you need to make a promise, make sure you can do it.
I had to lock myself in part of my house to keep away from him.
All parties in the matter of Rouleau versus Wilson. Step forward.
Jessica Rouleau is suing her daughter, 25-year-old Jessica Wilson, for a loan to buy a Chevy Suburban and for child care costs for her 3-year-old son.
Ms. Rouleau, the defendant is your daughter.
Yes.
And it is your claim that some time ago you co-signed for a car for her.
Correct.
With the understanding that she was going to make the payments on the car.
Correct.
She did not make the payments on the car. The car was repossessed.
Yes.
And you had to pay for the balance of the loan on the car. Your daughter says that there was never any intention of her making payments on the car. Her husband, at the time, put down a down payment on the car. You were supposed to make the payments on the car. You didn't do that. The car was unfortunately repossessed. She doesn't know anything about anything. Who was that?
It's my husband, Your Honor.
Does he live with you?
He did.
Until when?
January 11th on her release from prison.
From whose release?
Hers.
Hers. Sounds like a lovely family.
Yes.
In addition, it is your claim that while your daughter, I believe, incarcerated or unavailable to take care of her child, you were taking care of her son.
Correct.
With the understanding that she would help you with the child's support.
Correct.
She didn't, and when her husband was released from jail, he too moved in with you,
Correct.
with the child, and stayed with you, so you were then supporting both of them.
Correct.
When were you released from prison?
I wasn't in prison, Your Honor.
Where were you?
I was in the county jail.
County jail. Excuse me, we're talking semantics here. You were incarcerated.
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
2 months.
For what?
I had.
Stand up when you talk to me.
Yes, ma'am. I had to go back and get my case terminated for my child support.
Could you move over here, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you telling me you were in jail because you weren't paying child support?
No, I missed my revocation hearing because my lawyer was waiting for the paperwork.
Just a second. What had you been arrested for, sir?
Because I missed my court date for my revocation hearing because my lawyer didn't get my...
Just nothing in the penal law, sir, about violation of the penal law in any jurisdiction that talks about a revocation hearing. Do you understand? You were originally arrested for something, charged with a crime. What was the crime?
Child support.
So you were delinquent on your child support.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's the only reason you were incarcerated.
Yes, ma'am.
What child weren't you supporting?
Oh, my daughter.
Not this child. This is
No.
a boy.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and how old is that child?
She's 9.
Why weren't you supporting her?
I was, and then I got in a big old dispute with her mother. She wouldn't let me see her, and so I quit giving her money.
Okay, so they put you in jail.
The only reason they put me in jail is because I missed my court date for my revocation hearing. My PO wrote me a violation.
He gave up full custody of his daughter so he wouldn't have to pay.
So he terminated his parental rights. Good. Is her mother married to someone else?
Yes, ma'am.
So this other person is going to be her father.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds like a perfect solution for that child anyway. When you got out of jail, you moved in with Miss Rouleau.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me why that is.
She told me I could come stay there.
Well, she must have gotten a call from you.
Yes, I talked to her when I was in the county jail.
And you said you had no place to go?
No, ma'am.
Go ahead.
So she told me I could come stay there.
You mean, yes, ma'am. You told her you had no place to go.
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you have a place to go?
Because I didn't.
Don't you work?
I was until then.
What were you doing?
Floor layer.
And where were you living?
I was in Oklahoma when I got extradited back to St. Louis.
Yes.
That's not correct. She has supported him since day one since she went in the service.
But you're no longer in the service.
No, ma'am.
Were you honorably discharged or dishonorably discharged?
Dishonorably.
For what reason?
I went AWOL.
Sit down. Okay. When did you co-sign for this car?
In May of 2005.
And what were the payments?
$291.34 a month for 2 years.
Your daughter took possession of the car?
Immediately.
Did she ask you to co-sign for her?
Yes.
Tell me how that happened.
She and her husband was working full-time at that time. She was a bartender. He was laying floors. They had a nice home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, taking care of my grandson. She had wrecked a car previously the month before that, ran it into a tree. She was without a vehicle. Mom, will you help me? I'll help you.
And what was the arrangement?
For her to pay the payments. I would co-sign car and she'd make the payments.
Because she didn't have sufficient credit?
Correct. My credit was better. That's why they put me first on the loan and not her, because my credit was better than hers.
When did you stop making payments on the car?
When I went to join the military, she agreed to make the payments for me because she was proud of what I was doing. And
when was that?
That was the following year.
Well, did you make payments for the whole year?
I made payments until the following, I believe, May. I don't know the exact dates.
Well, why didn't you make all the payments?
Because she agreed to start making the payments for me.
No. You said you made payments for a year, but then you joined the military, and she was proud of you, so she said she'd take over the payments.
Yes.
Did you make payments for the entire year?
I got the vehicle in June, and I made payments, I believe, until the following May. And then that's whenever I started signing my contract with the military. I actually signed that July, but when I started talking to the recruiter and things like that, that was in June. And that's when she had agreed to take over the payments.
Is that right?
No. I have a history of all the payments that she made, knowing that she had to make these payments, and how many she missed in between there.
Can I see them, please?
They're all highlighted. The last one after she went into the military was return non-sufficient funds from her husband.
Where was the car when you went into the military?
My husband had it.
So why didn't he make the payments?
Because she had agreed to do it.
How many cars did you need?
Just the one, Your Honor.
Well, if he's working, then why wasn't he paying for the car?
He wasn't working when I went into the military.
Why not?
Because he was.
Because is not an answer. Why wasn't he working?
He was taking care of our son.
Son at the time.
He was 3.
And he wasn't in daycare? What?
He was living with me, taking care of his son. He was not working.
Can I see the payoff, please, for this car? You should be embarrassed. Are you embarrassed? You should be embarrassed. You started making payments on this yet?
Her husband actually made the December payment of $125 because he was staying with me and paying nothing else.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Though he did not pay January's.
The amount of this is $5,500.
Correct.
It exceeds the jurisdiction of this court. So I really don't even have to go into the issue of supporting your grandson, because whether I find that she was responsible for that, which she is, of course, because even if she didn't agree to it, she's responsible for the necessaries of her own child. That's the law everywhere. It would exceed this amount. Where is the child now?
With her. Most of the time he's at my house with my other daughter.
What are you doing now?
I'm currently looking for a job.
Do you have any kind of problem that has to be addressed in treatment?
No, ma'am.
What about him?
No, ma'am.
You mean you're just not doing anything and neither is he?
No, he's working now. I just got out of jail January 11th.
For what?
For my probation was revocated.
What were you arrested for?
Theft of government property.
What kind of property?
It was Xbox.
Grandson spends a lot of time with you?
Correct.
Good. You live close by?
Yes.
Judging for the plaintiff for the amount of $5,000. That's all. Step
Thank
out.
you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it was fair. The car will be paid off and everything will be taken care of.
She got what she wanted, and I can't believe she did it to me.
Because I was being sued and it was going to hurt my credit.
She brought me to court and did this.
That she realizes that you just can't not pay for something that you agree to.
Make arrangements, make payment arrangements with her.
And that she'll go on with her life and do the right thing.
She's disappointed in me.
I was slightly disappointed in her.
Because I was doing the right thing and then stopped.
I'm willing to forgive her and move on with our lives.
When things go bad in people's lives, you can't help it.
We'll get back together and just have a good, honest relationship.
And then for some car deal gone bad. Mr. Rose denies owing you any money, so let's go through the timeline.
Okay.
You and Mr. Rhodes were in a relationship in 2005 and 2006, is that correct?
Yes, December of 05 through July of 06, we were boyfriend-girlfriend together.
And you have a daughter together. How old is that child?
We have a son. I actually found out that I was pregnant 3 weeks after we broke up and he moved out of my home.
And how old is the child?
6 months.
When was the first amount of money that you claim Mr. Rhodes owes you? When was that debt initiated?
That was initiated in January of 2007. I have the paperwork here from both the dealership that did the repairs along with where my credit card was charged.
Well, tell me about the loan.
I was about 6 months pregnant. He was to start a new job and...
Were you living together or not?
No, we were not living together. We had broken up. But he was getting ready to start a new job, could not start the new job without a vehicle, so I agreed to...
So tell me what he said to you and what you said to him.
He asked me if I would help him to get the car repaired so he could have a job to support our family. And
is that what you did?
He offered it out.
Well, how did she know about it, Mr. Rhodes? How did she know that you needed someone to finance your car repairs?
Well, because we talk on a daily basis.
Okay. So she was pregnant.
And...
Just a second. She was pregnant at the time?
She was.
Was she working at the time?
She was.
And she was supporting herself at the time?
She was.
You weren't supporting her?
No.
So you called her and said...
Pretty much, my car's broke down.
So?
We discussed it, and she offered to help me out with it.
And?
And it got taken care of and paid for and done.
By whom?
By the dealership. She actually is the one that paid for it.
And?
That's about it.
What do you mean that's about it?
That's about it.
Well, it's your car. You have to pay for it.
Well, I understand.
So why didn't you do it?
Because I was financially unable to.
Why?
Because I was in between jobs.
Why?
Because door-to-door sales isn't easy.
Collect cans.
I've tried that. It didn't work out too well.
You tried collecting cans?
Yeah, it didn't work out too well.
I don't believe it. Don't be a smart mouth with me.
I'm not trying to be, Your Honor.
If you can't make a living as a door-to-door salesman, do something else.
That's what I did.
Good. What did you do?
I moved on to a different career.
What's your career?
I'm in furniture sales.
Commission or salary?
It's both. I'm guaranteed a certain amount per week, but if my commission outweighs that, I get my commission.
Who do you work for?
I work for Ashley.
And how long have you worked for them?
Since September 30th.
Who did you work for before that?
I work for Bright House Cable.
Doing what?
Door-to-door cable sales.
How old are you?
29.
You're too old to be still finding yourself, Mr. Rhodes.
I understand.
Who do you live with?
I live with my girlfriend.
What does she do for a living?
She is a server.
A server?
Mm-hmm.
What does she serve?
She serves food.
You're his friend?
Yes, ma'am.
What?
Yes, ma'am.
Just in the event you wanted to stand up next to him, I just wanted to give you some taste of what would happen to you if I don't get an answer that sounds logical to me. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
May I say something, Judge?
No. How much were the car repairs?
They were $15.24 and 60 cents. Right here I have the
I'd like to
credit card.
see them, please.
The statement from...
You got a pregnant girlfriend who's working, who's not taking any money from you during her pregnancy, who's working to support herself, and you call her to ask her for money? Ridiculous. Where is this car that she repaired for you?
It's actually sold.
You sold it for what?
Because she wanted me to sell it for 2 years, and so finally got to a point where I sold it.
And what'd you do with the money?
Pretty much paid off the lien that took a loan out on the car, then that was pretty much it. Took care of the whole car.
So how do you get to work now?
I purchased a new car. It's not exactly it's not exactly new though.
Ugh. You must see something that I don't. All right. $1,524.60. What's next?
The rent.
Forget rent. He didn't pay you back the $1,524.60. Then you let him move in with the idea that he was going to pay you rent. You let him stay there 3 months. He didn't pay a penny. I read your claim.
Right. I was pregnant, and for the last month of my pregnancy, he moved in. Said he was going to start making payments. He had a job when he moved in. Payments never came through, and I wanted him to be there for my family.
Then deal with it. Deal with the rent. If you act stupid once and lay out $1,500 for him when you're working, supporting yourself and supporting your unborn child, and then you let him move in, and if he doesn't pay you the first month, you kick him out. And if you let him stay the second and third month because you thought maybe it would work out with him, which I don't know why. What do you do what do you do for a living?
I'm an account executive. I'm in sales. The only reason I let him move back in, I was 6 months pregnant, or 9 months pregnant, actually. It was my last month. And I wanted to be there for the child. It's not the child's fault. So I let him move in so he could have his father, and unfortunately, he didn't pay me back. And that's why I'm here today. No
I've got the $1,520. Nobody lives free except you let him. What's next?
Next is when he agreed to pay me back. He had a $5,000 check for the sale of the car that I had did the repairs. And
okay, stop there. he sold the car, and the car that he just described to me that he sold and paid off the liens was the car that we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, now tell me the story.
He came to me with a $5,000 cashier's check. We talked about it and discussed it. He did not have a checking account to cash the check because he's on different bad things with his bank account, so he didn't have an account to do that in. So I agreed because I verified with my bank that it was a legitimate check. He signed it over to me. I put it in my account. I took funds out that was agreed upon ahead of time.
Which funds?
Funds from my bank account. I have receipts here.
No, I understand you
$1,200.
took out funds, $1,200, from the $5,000.
Correct.
What did you do with the $1,200?
I gave it to Mr. Rhodes.
For what?
To buy another vehicle and pay off his back taxes.
All I want to know is, you gave him the $1,200.
Correct.
When did you give him the $1,200?
On August the 10th. I have the receipts here to show that it was taken out of my bank account on August the 10th.
And according to what I read, the purchaser reneged on the deal and canceled the check.
Right.
How could they cancel a cashier's check?
I didn't know that was possible either.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Paula Kahneman claims ex-boyfriend Andrew Rhodes owes for rent, a loan to get his car fixed, and money owed on a botched car sale.
Okay, Mr. Rhodes, what happened?
Okay, put the car on eBay.
Don't go back to the year of the flood, sir.
No.
What happened with the $1,200?
The $1,200 was going to be my money, and she offered to go ahead and pull it out because I found a car that I wanted to buy, and it was an $800 car. She offered to go ahead and put it out there so I could purchase the car, have transportation to get to and from work.
So what happened?
For some reason, the eBay check got canceled for some odd reason. I have no idea why.
I understand that, but she got stuck with $1,200. Why didn't you give her back the $1,200 when you sold the car?
The car was already sold.
What do you mean the car was already sold?
The car was sold.
Am I not following you, sir? You sold the
be.
car. Let's say you sold the car on August 1st. She cashed the check for you by putting the money in her bank and giving you $1,200 to buy a new car, figuring that the rest of the money would be hers for whatever expenses and money that you allegedly owed her. She gave you $1,200.
Never once asked for it, though.
Just listen to me. She gave you the $1,200. Then the check bounced. On September 1st, you sold the car to somebody else.
Sold to the same buyer.
And he gave you another check.
No, they sent that directly to the bank that had the lien.
For how much was the lien?
$3,800.
Well, if it was $3,800, you had enough money to pay her back the $1,200.
I also had to purchase this car at the same
time. Who cares?
I never once asked for it. She offered it out. I took it.
Mr. Rhodes, listen to me. Why an intelligent, lovely-looking woman like you would choose somebody like him to father a child?
Looks can be deceiving.
I have absolutely no idea. I know looks could be deceiving. You know, if you're picking DNA, at least pick DNA that's reasonable. You know, you want a baby, that's a nice thing. You know, you'd be better off at a sperm bank. You owe her $2,724. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's a little bit off the rocker, tad bit, and we just didn't get along.
He's the father of my child, and it's too bad that he's a tax evader and a deadbeat dad and won't take care of his son.
Gonna do the best we can to raise this kid together.
Hopefully he'll become a father and quit being a deadbeat dad.
Won't let me see him, you know, when I want to see him.
He says that because he's not paying child support, and it's the only thing he has against me, and he tries to use that, but it's a complete lie.
She held months, and that's the bottom line.
He knows that he could have made
2 loans to your wife.
Mm-hmm.
You want those 2 loans repaid.
Yes.
You also claim that when she moved out of a house that you own, she took property that did not belong to her.
Correct.
She had been living in a house that you purchased at some point after the divorce in order to give your wife and daughter a home. She had what you term a rent-to-buy situation with the home.
Correct.
She was supposed to make the payments on the mortgage. Subsequently, you claimed that she failed to maintain the house. You took possession of the house, and when she moved out, she took property from the house of certain appliances and things that belonged to you.
Correct.
The former wife says that you did, in fact, make 1 loan to her for some bills. That loan was repaid with certain small cash payments and a pool table that she gave you in exchange for the rest of the money. The second loan that you made to her was really not a loan, which was something that had to do with the line of credit that you had on the house. And since now you have the house, it's your problem. And the property that was taken from the house was hers. That's your defense?
Yes.
Okay. When was the first loan and why, Mr. Roadcap?
The first loan was in November of 2005. and it was for $1,855, and it was because she had gotten
Behind in her bills.
behind. She had just resigned from the job that she had.
Did she call you?
Yes.
And what did she say when she called you?
She needed money to catch up on some of the bills and to get the kids Christmas gifts.
What arrangements did you make for repayment?
She had notified me that when she got her tax check back at the first of the year, that she would pay me in full then.
What happened when you got your tax check back, Miss Adams?
That wasn't the agreement at all. The $2,000 that I had borrowed from Daniel, he actually got it from a separate line of credit that he had for a bank that he used, or
don't make things more complicated than they are. You borrowed $2,000. He says $1,855. You say $2,000.
Those are two separate loans, Your Honor.
I'm talking about the $1,855 loan.
The $1,855 came from that home equity line of credit. I paid that every month myself. That was part of our rent-to-own agreement for the house. That was actually my bill. It was never meant to be repaid to him. I paid that $130 a month for as long as I lived in the home.
Just a second. $1,855 in November of 2005. And you say that you totally paid for that loan from your home equity line of credit.
Completely paid for. I paid it, well, I paid 7 payments. He knows of 5 payments I paid on it. So he's actually asking for $1,833 when he knows that I paid at least 5 of those payments already.
Well, just show me.
I don't have that with me.
Well, this is where you need it, madam. This is where you need it. This is court. This is what you're coming for. All you have to do is show me that after November 5th, on this revolving line of credit that you had, you made payments. Show me.
If he has, I don't know.
Not he, your check.
Well, there should be some kind of proof to saying when is the last payment I paid in the house.
Miss Adams.
I don't have that.
Miss Adams, all I want are your checks.
I don't have it with me.
Well, it's unfortunate. $1,855. When was the next loan?
That was at the end of November, which was 11/28, and that was $2,000.
What was that for?
That was, I didn't have the money all at once, so I had to isolate and get 2 different loans. Here's the copies of the checks.
She acknowledges that you gave her that money. $3,855. How much was repaid?
She made $80. She made December and January, so it was 2 payments made on the $80, and the home equity line of credit was late January, February, and not at all in March, and she tried to make it again late in April, and it was too late then. By then, the home equity line of credit was already, she defaulted.
She made 2 payments. Is that correct?
On the $2,000, yes, ma'am.
What about on the $1,855?
She made 3 payments.
So that's 5 altogether of
yes,
$160.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, what else?
At the time, we had a property agreement that she had to rent to own. She defaulted on her contract, so at that time, I took over the payments, and she had till June the 1st to get the house and everything in her name, and she did not do that. So July the 1st, she had to move out, which I asked her if she didn't want to move out, she could have rented it, but she chose not to. At that point, she left July the 1st, and she left the house like this.
Can I see it, please?
I took 8 truckloads of trash out of the house. It is a...
There was nothing left in the house when I moved out of the house.
Including the refrigerator and stuff.
How many children do you have, Miss
I have 3
Adams?
children.
Only one of them is yours?
Correct.
How old are the other 2 children?
My oldest will be 13 this month, and I have a 10-year-old son.
Are they living with you?
Not at this time.
Who do they live with?
Well, my oldest daughter, for about 6 months now, has lived with her father in California. And, my son, I guess he is with my mom since Daniel took the house.
Okay, the house is a mess. Who bought the appliances?
I did. Here's the receipts for them. I
Yeah.
have 2 receipts.
Can I see the
I have 2 receipts because I can't measure, and I had to take 1 refrigerator back. It didn't fit. So I have...
And Your
a
Honor,
glass top stove.
I also have a copy here of the refrigerator I purchased when I bought the house. The house was brand new. It didn't have appliances in it when I first bought it, or got it from him. And
It had no
I had
appliances.
to purchase those things.
Just a second. It had no appliances. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, it didn't have refrigerators. It did have a stove, which was accidentally taken from the movers on the last day. I've mentioned to Daniel that he can go get it. It's in the storage building. He doesn't want that. He'd much rather keep me in court over and over again.
Just a second. Why did you take the stove if you didn't buy it?
I had told the movers, it was just some friends of mine, I wasn't there that day, I told them to go get the refrigerators and the washer and dryer, and they just took the stove.
Well, that was a mistake.
Yes, and I have it, and I've told him he can go get it.
He doesn't have to go get it. Why should he have to go through the expense of going to get it?
It's right there in town. where, like, just a couple blocks from where I live.
Well,
He
then
has a
you
big
go-
truck, I don't.
then you-
And he and I was friends this whole time. And until May, when I got married, Daniel and I was friends. All these agreements was made with us being friends. That's why I don't have documentation of this and that and this and that.
Well, what happened, Miss Adams, is that you got married in May and planned to move her and his daughter to another state.
My husband's in the military.
I don't care whether he is in the military or he's in the circus. You can't take his child away.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't want to discuss with me why you, who have 3 children, don't have any of them living with you, do you? And it's not because he took your house away.
And later today,
Alcohol basically has ruined...
wife Dorothy Adams owes for loans and for taking his property from their shared home. Dorothy says Daniel is angry over her new marriage.
When did you tell him that you were planning to move to Georgia? When did she tell you?
About May 2nd.
And when was the move going to take place?
I had no idea. It was very discreet.
When was the move to take place?
Well, my husband's
No,
still
just give me a date.
It'll be after January of this year before I could even possibly move. He's still in AIT.
When were you planning to move?
That's what I gave him, an indefinite, like way back, like several months from then.
Is that right?
Hmm.
What did she tell you?
I had no idea. She was in a separate relationship, and they broke up
Look at
April
me.
April 24th.
Yeah.
At May 15th, she was married to another guy I had never met, my daughter had never met, and she said that she was going to be moving out of state.
Your Honor, the reason why Daniel didn't know of my new marriage and of my expectations and what I was planning on getting from that is because of these. These are his legal records showing that Daniel is not Mr. Sweet Kind here, let me help you out here. He's got assault and battery. He's got shoot and throw missiles at an occupied vehicle.
I don't care, madam. Listen to me. It has nothing to do with this. You don't want to discuss with me why you, who have 3 children, don't have any of them living with you, do you?
No, but this is why I wanted to get out of the state.
Listen to me. And it's not because he took your house away. I mean, if you have 3 children, somebody takes your house away, you don't let your children go someplace else with your mother, with their other father. You go to a shelter someplace. You get a job and you get an apartment. So we don't have to go into history. The only issue that I have before me is whether you owe him this money and whether you took the refrigerator and the stoves that he purchased. And why, after what apparently was a reasonable period between the 2 of you having been divorced, he had a house, you were in the house with your 3 children, you needed money, you called him, he loaned you money. Problem was when you married somebody that he didn't know and you told him you're taking your kids and you're moving hundreds of miles away. And he said, what, are you crazy? You're not going to take my daughter. You may take your other 2 children. Their fathers may not care, but you're not taking my daughter away. And then you got angry, and you left the house like a trash bin, and you took property that didn't belong to you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Until I come up with something, you know, concrete against him.
She hit a curb and blew out a tire, and the transmission went out.
And Ms. Swartz says that she had an unfortunate accident and that she might clearly be responsible for replacing a tire, but certainly not the transmission, since she had your permission and this accident was clearly not her fault.
Well, she did not have my permission.
Good. When was this party that you had?
A couple of months ago. It was a Friday night. It was at my house, and
Listen, Mr. Panett, how old are you, sir?
23.
What do you do for a living?
I am a market analyst.
Ever been to court before, sir?
No, except for traffic tickets and...
Well, that's court. So, if you're a plaintiff and you have a claim, first thing you figure out is what date.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because the questions get harder after that, Mr. Panett. So, a couple of months ago on a Friday night isn't a date.
I believe the date was December 14th, Your Honor.
That's a date. Now, it was on December 14th, 2006. Where were you?
At my house.
Who else was there?
I don't know the exact names, but a bunch of my friends.
And what were you all doing?
Drinking, watching TV, listening to music.
Great. Having a good time. Being responsible.
Yes.
What happened next?
Well, I didn't keep track of everybody around that night. I went to bed maybe around 1 or 2, and the next morning, Stacy called me and said that my car was broken down. I said, you know, how could that be? It should be in front of my house. And she said she was in Sunrise, which is about 20 miles away.
Where do you live?
Downtown Sacramento.
Go ahead.
She said it was broken down. She explained to me that she had taken my car the night before and that it had broken down the night before and that she had spent the night and was calling me in the morning. And I was...
Spent the night where?
at one of her friend's house, I assume.
Okay.
And I explained to her that she had better get my car back to me.
What kind of car do you have?
It's a Nissan Sentra.
Year?
1997. And she said she would. We exchanged words. I was a little upset, and then I fell back asleep. I didn't get my car back until the next day. She had it towed back to my house. At first, she hadn't even told me that a tire had blown out. I did see that for myself when it came to my house. Then she explained that to me. I had not given her permission to drive the car, so I was very upset.
Okay. Don't repeat anything.
Okay.
I have other things to do. Are you finished?
She had told me that she would pay for all damages. She was very apologetic at first, and I felt, like I would forgive her. I had it diagnosed, and she refused to pay it. She says she's not responsible for that.
And when you had it diagnosed, what was the bill?
It was $1,500, $1,593.83. I'd originally said $1,600. It's I'd rounded when I looked at the receipt. It's actually $6.17 less than that.
Mr. Panett, how did you pay for this?
My father loaned me the money to pay for it, actually.
Did you pay for it in check or cash, sir?
I believe my father used his credit card to pay for it, and I had to pay my father back.
What's your father's name?
John Panett.
His phone number?
It's in my cell phone. I'm sorry.
Berg, would you please get his cell phone so that we can get the father's number, please? Thank you. And he's going to verify that he paid this bill, sir?
Yes,
when I
he
call
would.
him on the phone? Good. We're going to do that in a minute.
Okay.
Now, I'll hear you, Miss Swartz.
On December 14th, I was hanging out at Kip's house, and I asked him if I could borrow his car to go over to Jessica's house.
Where does Jessica live?
A few blocks from his house.
And he said?
He said yes. He let me borrow it.
Good. So you understand, Miss Swartz,
That's
that
a different place than she was. Excuse me, Your Honor.
You do understand, madam, that you did have limited authority to take his car to go to Jessica's house, which is a few blocks away. You understand that?
Yes. Yeah.
Now tell me what happened.
I drove over to Jessica's house and told her that I was using Kip's car. And she called me at 5 o'clock in the morning and woke me up.
At Jessica's house?
Yes. And told me she was drunk and stranded. So I didn't even think to call Kip and ask permission because he let me borrow his car. He knew I wasn't...
No, my dear.
He knew I wasn't going to bring it back until the morning. So I...
Darling!
Yes.
You get it now? You look as if you're smart enough to get where I'm going.
Yes, ma'am.
You went to pick up your friend in Sunrise. And how far is Sunrise from Jessica's house?
Approximately 20 miles.
20?
Miles.
Miles, not blocks. Miles. And it was coming back with her, this drunken friend of yours, that you had the accident.
Yes.
Now tell me about the accident.
I was just driving and I was coasting, so I was in neutral. And then I tried to put it into gear and it would not go into gear. And I went to park immediately and I hit the curb and popped the tire. That was probably about 5:30, 6 o'clock.
You must have hit the curb very hard.
Well, yes, it was hard enough to pop the tire. And I immediately changed the tire. And since it was about 5:30 in the morning, my friend that I picked up just walked to her house because we were about a block away. And I slept in the car and called Kip about 9 o'clock in the morning to tell him that I was going to get his car towed back to him.
Let us assume that I believe you, that Mr. Panett said that you could borrow his car to go to Jessica's house, which is a few blocks away, to stay over. When you exceeded his permission by going 20 miles away the next day, you no longer had his permission. Do you understand that?
But he knew I was going to have it till the morning.
Don't tell me what he knew. He gave you permission, according to you, to drive it a few blocks. A few blocks is not 20 miles.
I have my witness here that saw him give me permission.
I just said, don't you have your listening ears on? I said, if I believe you, he gave you permission to take it a few blocks away. Once you took it 20 miles away, you no longer had permission.
Your Honor, he lets me borrow the car all the time.
That's not true.
Just a second. Where do you think you are?
Right here.
Where is here?
In this witness chair.
And until you stand up there, what are you supposed to do?
Listen to you.
Right. Once you exceeded the scope of the permission, you no longer had permission. That's the law. Do you understand it?
Yes.
So all I have to do is deal with the issue of damages. And for that, you're going to give me John's cell phone.
Yes, ma'am. Just let me power it up.
Power it up.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What a nice father you have, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Do you know what he doesn't remember?
What?
He doesn't remember you paying him back.
And later today,
What were you doing for the last 3 years?
I was selling cars.
Why did you decide to go back to school?
I made a life-changing mistake of driving under the influence and lost my license.
That was life-changing.
Very much.
Judge Judy. Kenneth Kip Panett claims former friend Stacy Schwartz took his car without permission and damaged it. Kenneth says Stacy not only ruined the transmission and clutch, but she also popped one of his tires.
John Panett, this is Judge Judy Scheindlin. How are you? I'm very well, thank you. Do you have a moment for just a couple of quick questions for me? I'm here, as you know, trying a case involving your son and this young woman who took his car without permission. Are you familiar with that? Okay. Did he ever ask you for any money to help him repair this car? When was that? 3 months ago. Do you remember how much it cost you, sir? Approximately. And did you use your credit card? Did he pay you back that money? I know, I have children. Did he tell you how it happened? Did he need a new transmission? Was he driving the car? Okay. Very good. And you used a credit card? Okay, great. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you taking the time. Bye-bye now. What a nice father you have, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And as a matter of fact, your father does remember helping you out and paying for this transmission a few months ago.
That's correct.
Do you know what he doesn't remember?
What?
He doesn't remember you paying him back.
Well, I owe him money pretty much all the time, and I am always paying him. So I'm in the process
that he
of
doesn't
paying him.
remember. I mean, he does remember laying this money out for you, but he doesn't remember the fact that you paid him.
I have not fully paid him back, Your Honor. I apologize.
Well, how much have you paid him, sir?
Well, I owe him a total of quite a bit more than that. So I guess if you got down to that bill, I haven't paid him any because I'm paying him for things that I owe him.
Well, you have no objection to making the check payable to your father, do you?
No, not at all.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,593.83 to be made payable to John Panett. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
It may take time, but we probably will be friends again.
Well, now that it's all been paid for,
Versus Artigas. Step forward, please.
45-year-old electrician Farrell Fox and his wife Bobby are suing their daughter, 22-year-old Jill Aragus, for the cost of the wedding and not inviting them.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please.
Your Honor, this is case number 15 on the calendar in the matter of Fox versus Aragus. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir, ma'am.
This is your daughter
That's correct.
and your stepdaughter. Is that right?
17 years.
And your father and his wife raised you?
Yeah.
You decided to get married?
Yes,
to
Your
you?
Honor.
And you said you would pay for the wedding?
That's correct.
And you made some payments towards things that, deposits and stuff towards the wedding. You gave your daughter some money in cash, is that right?
No.
Never gave you any money in cash to pay for things for the wedding?
She gave me a check for $500 one time, and I gave her everything back that was bought.
What did you buy with it?
A cake knife, goblets, garter belt.
Whatever, you said you gave it. But
yeah.
The money that you say you laid out towards this wedding was what, $1,700?
$1,735.
And then you had a falling out with your daughter.
Sort of. She walked away. We don't know, actually.
Yeah. She didn't really elaborate on the reason that she decided to turn her back on us.
And the wedding was canceled.
Yes.
And they went and got married someplace else.
That's right.
Without us.
Inviting you, which
Correct.
hurt you very badly.
That's right.
So you want the money back?
We do.
It's not a very difficult legal case. You didn't lend her the money. There was no agreement for her to pay you back the money. What's your first name?
Jill.
Curious, Jill. From your vantage point, what happened with your parents that caused you to get married and not invite them?
Bobby decided...
Bobby is your stepmom?
Yes. She decided that she didn't want to support the wedding anymore because she didn't feel that we were ready to be married, and she said she wasn't going to support it anymore. So we went and
Tell me about that
conversation.
conversation.
That was a conversation with me, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Step up. That was a conversation with you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Not with Jill?
No, Your Honor.
So tell me about it.
I was in Quantico, a military training, and I called like every other day. And on one of those phone calls, she wanted to talk to me, Bobby that is, and she was in a very harsh tone, told me how did I expect to support her, and I simply tried to tell her that I would have enough money once we were married to support her. We wouldn't be rich or anything, but we'd be fine. And she just said that until she saw a financial plan in writing, that we would not be able to get married, and she would no longer support it if we didn't show her that financial plan. And
okay. Bobby, tell me what you remember of this conversation.
I remember it clearly, Your Honor. My daughter had no food. She was coming to us with no food. She had no gas.
Was she living on her own?
Yes.
Okay.
And she was at our door constantly.
Okay.
And it was agreed when said she was getting married that, okay, now we'll pay for the wedding. You're old enough, you support yourself. Anyway, her car broke down. He left her. He's nowhere to be found. He's in the Army.
Well, he's in the Army.
Not his fault. But,
believe me,
but they
Uncle Sam knew where he was.
Right, exactly. But the idea was we were upset because they planned it around the time he wasn't around. You plan a wedding together, that's the fun part.
So tell me about this conversation.
Okay, the conversation went, Jill doesn't have any food, where is the money going? You took $500 that we gave for her. She said that he had spent it on his friends over the weekend that he came to visit with her, and that we need that money back. Anthony says, I don't know what you're talking about, there's no money. I believe my daughter. The other thing was, I said, well, she's trying to pay child support, and I named off a few other things, and he said, she's not paying child support, she has plenty of food, she must be lying. Well, then a few days later, I went in, and her and her girlfriend were there, and I mentioned to her girlfriend about the conversation with child support, and her girlfriend says, well, actually, technically, she doesn't pay child support. She sends them clothes. And it irritated me because the kid's in Stockton. She doesn't know whether he needs his clothes. And I said, Jill, if you had any conscience, you would postpone the wedding until you can afford to pay support. But it's up to you.
So, Mrs. Fox, it was your understanding that your daughter, because of her financial circumstance and her intended, they were really not ready to get married. And you let them know that, right? And the two of you got angry, I assume, and decided, hell with the wedding. We'll go off and get married without them. You have a child?
Mm-hmm.
How old is your child?
He's almost 4.
And I assume from what your mother tells me that he lives with someone else.
With his father.
How long has he lived with his father?
Almost a year, or about a year.
Do you visit with him?
Mm-hmm.
How often?
Every 2 or 3 months.
Where are you living now?
In California.
And are you in the military?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm in the Marine Corps.
What about you? What are you doing?
I'm attending college right now.
You're attending college full-time?
Mm-hmm.
Which college?
Copper Mountain College in 29 Palms, California.
What kind of college is that?
It's a junior college.
Who's paying for college?
I got a waiver because I don't make enough money to pay for the classes.
Why aren't you working?
I'm going to work as soon as this semester's over.
Why aren't you working now?
I don't know.
Listen to me. Expensive lesson, it cost you $1,700. They're not even ready for a Scheindlin lecture. I can usually tell. I assume that since your grandson,
whom we're still paying child support for.
Well, that must be voluntary.
It's only $50 a month.
But you're sending that?
Yes, every month.
Do you see him, your grandson?
No, not anymore. She doesn't want us to have anything to do with our grandson.
Why?
She's completely lying about everything.
Just a second.
First of all, she doesn't even have his address. They moved twice since they even known him. So I know they're not sending anything to him.
Oh, I believe that they're sending money.
Okay.
I believe they're sending money. And you have no objection to them visiting with your son?
As long as it's supervised by the father.
Why?
Because she's a psycho.
She's a psycho.
She makes up all kinds of stories.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Sir, I don't know if you get it or if you don't get it. She has a problem.
No, she doesn't, Your Honor.
And later today.
Oh, this is one of those things, a Tasmanian devil? Tasmanian devil. How elegant.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Farrell and Bobby Fox are suing their daughter, Jill Aragus, for the cost of her wedding. Jill says her father gave her the money and has no right to ask for it back.
I know that in all probability, you came here expecting for a miracle. Not necessarily for the $1,700.
That's right.
There's no miracle here yet. I have a sense that you know what part of the problem is. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And until your daughter resolves that problem, she's not getting on with her life, and your grandson is probably better off where he is.
Yes, he is. That's true.
Right?
You're right. Absolutely, 100%.
May I present some evidence on her?
Why do you want to produce any evidence, sir? I'm dismissing their lawsuit.
Just for the sake of we're being made to look like we're lying and such. I want it shown that Bobby Fox is not an honest person. I have the proof here that money that she is suing us for, she has already been returned. And what she had told this place that we put a deposit down on, and every other place that she put a deposit down on, was that she had a dog bite on her face and that she needed surgery. And in order to get those surgeries, she needed her deposits back, her non-refundable deposits. And these places, out of sympathy, gave her this money back, and I have the receipt. This lady lies about things.
Just a second. Is that your excuse, sir? Your excuse is that she made up a story to get her deposit back from some places?
No, Your Honor, it's not an excuse. It is a truth, and it just shows that she's not honest, and she's still suing us for this money, and that's not right, that she's suing us for the money that she's already been returned.
What, you gave her back $1,000 in cash?
No, she was giving back...
No, you gave her back $1,000 in cash? Did you give that to her back? The answer is no, you didn't. That's more than half of her claim, sir. I don't know if you get it or if you don't get it. She has a problem.
No, she doesn't, Your Honor.
I've been in this business for a long time. I'm telling you, she's got a problem. This case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'll back door to your right, please.
And now the next case.
All parties on Haley versus Diorio. Step forward, please.
22-year-old preschool assistant Megan Haley is suing her ex-boyfriend, 20-year-old carnival worker Michael Diorio, for rent, jewelry, and a damaged car.
This gentleman is a former boyfriend of yours.
Ex-fiance.
He's the father of your child. How old is your child?
She's about 2.5.
And according to your complaint, he owes you for rent from when he was living in your mother's house. He owes you for damage to your car.
Yes.
And a necklace.
Yes.
So let's start with the rent. He moved into your mother's house?
Yes.
And what is this rent from?
The agreement was, my mother said she didn't really want room and board. But since I was pregnant and going to have a child, she said, if you give Megan $350 a month, every month, and we'll put it away for the child. He paid for the first 3 months, and then he stopped paying.
He was 17 years old at the time? He can't
17 to 18.
He can't make a binding contract when he's 17 years old, even an oral one, to give you or your mother money. So whatever you think he owes you for money that he was supposed to give your mother towards rent or towards putting away for the baby later, he can't make a binding contract with regard to that. You're paying child support now?
I give her money when I have money, yes.
It's a little girl?
Yes.
I assume that you think she eats when there's food.
No, she eats daily when she's supposed to eat.
Well, then how can you give her money when you have it?
Me, I've been out of work for a while.
I just always have a problem when teenagers decide that one of the cute things that they're going to do during their teenage years is to have a baby. That's just so sad for the baby.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You can't be a fool anymore. You were a fool once, and based upon what I've heard, you continue to be a fool for a long time.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. 22-year-old preschool assistant Megan Haley is suing her ex-boyfriend, 20-year-old carnival worker Michael DiOrio, for rent, jewelry, and a damaged car.
Let's get on with this case. Car damage. Let's hear what happened with the car, because I found that rather interesting in this case.
Yes. One day he was supposed to show up for his daughter, and he didn't, and this was like a usual thing by now. So I was pretty upset, and I was out and I was driving, and I saw him pull into a gas station with a few of his friends. So I was mad. So I pull up into the gas station, and I parked my car in front of his like that, like he was pulled at the pump, and I parked here. And we started screaming.
So he couldn't move?
Yeah, well, he was able to go backwards, but he couldn't go forward. So we started screaming at each other. We fought, we yelled, we screamed. And then he's like, move your car. And I said, no. And then he went over my car, and then he kicked it. And he said, now move your car. And I said, I'm not moving my car. And he gets in the car, and he's like, move it. And I said, no. I'm like, you want to leave? Go in reverse. And he took his car, smashed into my car, drove it right into my car, then took off in reverse and left.
Now let's see your version of these events, sir.
I pulled up into the gas station. She pulled up behind me. I had 3 friends in the car with me.
You must have been on your way to work.
No, this was after work.
Go ahead.
We were hanging out. I stopped, get gas. She told me that she's pregnant. I didn't believe it because her and my brother's ex-girlfriend always came up with this story about if they broke up and they found us with another girl, they'd always say that they were pregnant. So I didn't believe it at first.
Could you please tell me what happened with the car?
I did hit her car.
You hit her car?
I hit her car.
All right. Why did you hit her car? Because you were angry?
Yes. She was I could not go in reverse. My door was open.
Let me see the bill. What kind of car did you have?
94 Cavalier.
No, don't ask her. What are you asking her for?
Kind of car I had?
You.
Oh, 78 Ford Fairmont.
And you?
I had a 94 Cavalier.
All right. $1,023 to have the car fixed. Necklace is next and last, thank God. Yes.
Well, I bought him a necklace and charm. The charm was a loaner. I let him borrow that, and he never gave that back to me. That he was supposed to give back to me. That's $100. The necklace I bought for him when we were together. And then when we had broken up, he gave it to one of his girlfriends. And I didn't appreciate that. And I wanted it back. And I said, you know, at least get it back from her. You keep it. It was for you. So we got it back. Then we got into another fight, and he gave it to another one of his girlfriends. And then they broke up, and this girl had it for 2 months. And I said, well, I kept asking him to get it back, you know. And he said he wasn't getting it back. And I said, all right, then I'm going to get it back, and I'm going to keep it. And then as soon as I was going to get it, then he went and got it. And then he got another girlfriend and gave it to her. And he kept saying he was going to get it back. And then plus, with this last girlfriend, he also gave her my charm that I lent him.
What about this loaned charm, sir?
No, she did give it to me.
Tell me about it.
One night, me and her were hanging out. This was one of the very few times that we were not fighting. And she told me that First, she was buying me a necklace and charm that had my name on it. But then we got into a fight, and she got the charm changed to her name. Then when we started getting along again, she went out and got me the attached charm. She bought the charm for me. We got into a fight. She didn't give it to me. We made up, and I saw it. I was playing around with her. I put it on my neck, and I went to give it back to her when she dropped me off, and she said, "Don't worry about it. You could have it."
Could I
No,
see
I
the
didn't
charm?
say that. I didn't
Could
say
I
you
see
could
the
have
charm?
it.
The necklace is yours, sir. The necklace
No,
she gave
I
you was
told
a
him
gift.
he could wear it.
The necklace she gave you was a gift. You can't get a gift back, madam, even if he gives it to other girlfriends.
And plus, he broke the ear on it now, too.
Oh, this is one of those things, a Tasmanian devil? Tasmanian devil. How elegant. Give this back to him. I think you should keep it. You owe her $1,023, sir, to fix her car. She acted like a fool in blocking you. You had a way of leaving without hitting her car. So you're responsible for that, do you understand?
Yes.
You're also responsible to regularly pay child support.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
You have a child, you have to act responsibly. This gentleman is never going to run a major corporation. Do you understand? You can't be a fool anymore. You were a fool once, and based upon what I've heard, you continue to be a fool for a long time. Socially, anyway. But you have a responsibility. You better grow up. You made a baby, that doesn't make you a parent. A parent is responsible. Hanging out with your friends is not something that a father does. A father who's not spending time with the child and who's not earning a hell of a lot gets a job doing whatever they can instead of hanging out with their friends so they can take care of their child, and if not, sending the money directly to her. All of it. You open up a bank account and you start putting money away so that your child grow up speaking appropriate English by going to school and being educated and hopefully have a future. Does that sound logical to you?
Yes.
Do it! That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Maybe this will kick into him. He doesn't pay attention to anything else. So I figured maybe this would snap him, make him smart and make him want to care about his daughter.
I love my daughter with all my heart, and when
Then why don't you see her?
I'm able to see her, I do see her.
Not paying medical and dental bills for their son, Aaron. Dr. Leventhal is countersuing his ex-wife for not allowing him to see his children.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 68 on the calendar in the matter of Leventhal versus Leventhal. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have seats.
Mrs. Leventhal, you were married to Dr. Leventhal for 20 years?
Yes, ma'am.
This is your son?
Yes, this is Aaron.
Would you please ask Aaron to wait outside?
Sure thing, Judge.
Thank you.
Come this way.
I never think it's a good idea, Mrs. Leventhal, to have children in a courtroom, especially when their parents are bickering. They should not be involved in this action at all. You have 2 children.
Yes, ma'am.
Your lawsuit complains of the fact that pursuant to your judgment of divorce, your former husband was supposed to pay for medical and dental coverage and unreimbursed medical and dental bills for both yourself for a short period of time and your children until they're 18, and that he has failed to do so, and that your accumulated bills for both orthodontic work, which was $3,000 some odd dollars, and unreimbursed bills, brings the total up to close to $5,000. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
let's go back. When were you divorced?
December 30th, 1996.
And do you have a copy of the judgment of divorce?
I do.
Bert, can I have it, please? I'd like to take a look at it. Thank you.
Section 10 here.
Okay. So, Dr. Leventhal, you do not deny that this states, husbands shall provide health insurance for the benefit of the minor children. Have you maintained that health insurance, sir, up until today's date?
I have, Your Honor.
And have you maintained health insurance for your former wife? You're required to do that for 3 years.
I have procured quotes from 3 different insurance agencies and have notified her attorney that she has to make application and get physical examination. And
Dr. Leventhal, the answer is you have not.
Yes, ma'am, I have, but it's up to Mrs. Leventhal now in order to get a physical exam and
No,
make
sir.
an application.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Don't try to fool Mother Nature. It's a very bad thing, sir. So the answer is you have not complied with the terms of this with regard to her.
My family had health insurance when I was terminated from my original position in Orlando as part of my termination package, which Ms. Leventhal was essentially responsible for, okay? She continued to use cards from the previous insurer to acquire medical care.
No. Let's stop dancing around. Right now, there is no coverage for your wife. Is that right?
Because she has not gotten a physical examination.
No, you said
or
to
an
me, come on, Dr. Leventhal.
Your Honor,
I want to get to the point, sir. You say that you've gotten quotes. You were supposed to have insurance in place for her at the time of the judgment of divorce. I'm not going to waste any more time on this because I'm moving on to other things.
This has already been heard in court. I've not been found in contempt for that.
That's not what we're here for. I'm not here to find you in contempt. Unfortunately, I do not have contempt powers. I'm going to try to do something about that. In any event, we have orthodontic bills. Now, which child had orthodontic work, Mrs. Leventhal?
Our older son, Aaron, who was just here, we both agreed in 1995, before Dr. Leventhal left our house on domestic violence, that the 3 of us sat down, saw a film, agreed he would have braces on his teeth. He was to have them off before his bar mitzvah at his 13th birthday, which he did not get. The original cost was $3,080, which was a bargain for an orthodontist in Orlando, Florida. Over the last 2 years, the amount has incurred to almost $3,300, of which I've been paying $5 a week on my already limited income.
Just a second. Let's talk about the orthodonture. Dr. Leventhal, you think that this lady who is your wife, the mother of your 2 children, you think she put braces on your oldest child just to irritate you? Dr. Leventhal, you think she put the braces on the kid just to irritate you?
I don't know, Your Honor. She does a lot of things to irritate me.
You're a smart man. Come on, you're a smart man.
I really can't answer that question because my ex-wife has never, ever called me about any medical problems or dental problems with my children. The only thing she did was show up 2 weeks after she had me removed from the home at my office to show me that my son had braces on. I never saw a referral. I never heard from a dentist that he needed braces.
Dr. Leventhal, you went to medical school for 4 years. You did an internship. You did a residency. What's your specialty?
Family practice.
Okay. You saw your son?
Not really.
No. What do you mean you didn't see him? You grew up with him. You left the house. He was, what, 11 years old?
I never needed braces. My children's teeth looked fine when I left the house.
So what you're telling me is you think that your wife put braces on your son Aaron just to irritate you?
I think it's a possibility.
Let me see the orthodontic stuff, please.
The orthodontics and dental bill from our dentist.
I mean, all these were done out of network, Your Honor.
No,
what do you mean they were done out of network?
They were done without referral. They were done out of the network of the HMO, out of the dental insurance.
Sir, I read your answer very carefully. Your counterclaim says a variety of things. 1, it's outside the HMO. 2, the HMO doesn't pay for orthodontic work, and if they do, they only pay for part of the orthodontic work. And 3, If all of the above don't sound good to you, Judge, I filed for bankruptcy in 1997 in order to alleviate the bills, and all these medical bills were supposed to be covered in the bankruptcy in order to help your wife. Am I crazy, or is that what you said?
That's partly what I said.
Yeah, that's what you said. So you said if I should have paid for this and if I should have paid for that, well, I cleared it all up because I filed for bankruptcy. Did you file for bankruptcy?
Not just to cover the medical bills. The day after I left the house, she bought a $2,000 computer and a $7,500 piano, things that I really couldn't afford.
The majority of the medical bills in question were included in the discharge under Chapter 7.
Some of them were, that's correct.
That's what you wrote in your answer.
Some of them were, that's correct.
How could you file for bankruptcy, sir?
Because I couldn't afford what Mrs. Leventhal was doing with a credit card, with dental expenses, with medical. I couldn't afford that.
Well, how
she
much?
wasn't using.
Just a second.
She wasn't using network HMO providers.
How much did you pay for medical and dental stuff, sir? Show me your bills, paid receipts, checks. At the time that you filed for bankruptcy, show me how much you paid for medical and dental.
Medical and dental as far as what? I mean,
as far as your children.
My insurance?
No, not your insurance. You just
I
said
couldn't
to me
pay.
you filed for bankruptcy because of all the medical and dental bills that you had to pay.
I couldn't pay because I couldn't afford to pay. She's getting $43,000 of my income.
Just a second. So you didn't pay. Dr. Leventhal.
I paid the health insurance, Your Honor. Okay, the health insurance covers medical expenses. When she goes outside the health insurance, it's her responsibility. It does not become my responsibility.
Doesn't say that here, sir.
That's what she was doing. She was going to a group called Psychological Affiliates. She was going to a psychiatrist.
I'm not talking about psychiatrists. I'm talking about braces. Let's not dance around what we're talking about here. We're talking about braces.
Medical, dental.
Did you pay for the braces?
No, I did not.
You got to pay for the braces, sir.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
At that point, my former husband proceeded to tell me to get out. He said, I'm not giving you any money. His partner threw $25 at me and said, if you don't leave this office, I'll have you arrested in front of the children.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Susan Leventhal says her ex-husband, Dr. Jerry Leventhal, owes her medical and dental bills for their son. Dr. Leventhal claims he has a restraining order against his former wife for stalking him.
You're going to pay the bill for the dentist because you can dance around all you like and you can file for all the bankruptcies you like, but I'm telling you, you are responsible for your child's orthodontia. And the bill's up till this point to $3,300 for that because that's what this says you have to be responsible for, not her. You live in the same town.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I know that that sounds painful to you, but let me tell you something, Mrs. Leventhal, you picked him. For good, for bad, you made two children with him. He's the father of your children. And if you do anything to demean him in front of his children, and just listen to me very carefully, madam, if you do anything to demean him in front of his children, that negatively impacts on his children. I don't care what that does to make you feel better, and I don't care if you think that that hurts him. What it does is say to the children, my father is worthless, therefore I'm worthless. Now, I assume that you would not think of doing that. I assume you wouldn't. Dr. Leventhal, trust me, sir. I'm very smart. Why did your son go to his office 2 weeks after you separated?
Your Honor, we had discussed having the braces put on, as I said, as a family. We saw the video.
I heard that already. I'm not interested in the video. My question is a specific one, Mrs. Leventhal. Why did your son go to your husband's office 2 weeks after you separated?
We were separated, and my older son wanted his dad to see the braces on his teeth.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me what happened when he came to your office 2 weeks after you separated?
Mrs. Leventhal had called and said she was coming, and I said this wasn't a good time. We just finished our day. It was during the Christmas season. We had planned on having the office Christmas party at that time, and I didn't think it was a good time. We were on totally opposite sides of town at rush hour traffic, and...
What happened when he got there?
She started walking through the office, screaming up and down the halls, making a scene in front of my...
Saying what?
Your child needed braces, you have to pay for it, this is what your son's going to be in for the next 18 months, and, you know, you're going to pay for it.
Okay, so that's what the visit was to your office 2 weeks later.
If you want to call it a visit, yes.
Now, Mrs. Leventhal, do you want to tell me what happened at that visit to the office?
Yes, ma'am. We called my husband at the time to let him know that He had just had his braces put on, and the son wanted to see him. We had been separated for 2 weeks since he had been removed from our house on domestic violence.
You already said that 4 times. You think I didn't hear you the first time?
I said it twice. So we went. He saw his son. At that.
Just a second. Step by step, what happened?
I did not make a scene. I came in. My former husband was in the kitchen of the office. He had a partner there. My sons, both of my sons were present. They wanted to see their father. They showed their dad their braces. At that point, my former husband proceeded to tell me to get out. His partner told me to get out. I said, I haven't seen you. You haven't provided any money for us for spending since we're separated. He said, I'm not giving you any money. His partner threw $25 at me and said, if you don't leave this office, I'll have you arrested in front of the children.
Mrs. Leventhal, why did you feel as if it was necessary to take your 2 sons to his office to ask for money?
Because he was not providing any money when he left the house.
I think that you should absolutely have sought money. My question to you, madam, is why did you take your 2 sons with you when you went to his office to ask him for money?
Well, I did not take him there specifically to ask him for money. As I said, my sons wanted to see their father, and Aaron had just had braces put on.
I'll tell you like I told your husband. Stupid isn't written here. I've been in this business a very long time. Caring parents who have just suffered a separation, especially, as you told me, at least twice, because of domestic violence, do not involve their children by taking them to a business and saying, I need money, with the children there. That is not what a caring parent does. That's what an angry parent might do. But that's not what a caring parent does. You were wrong. Do you understand that you were wrong?
I understand what you're saying, Your Honor, but I did not take them there to make a scene. I did not take them there to ask for money, and I hope that
you shouldn't have asked for money. If you took them there merely to see their father, because that's what they wanted to do, your boys weren't babies. You sit in the car, you let your 2 boys go in and see their father, show them their braces, and come out. So you made a big mistake.
Your Honor, my children have lived through this, and they have learned to heal and learn how to adapt through habitual intemperance. We have an order that stands in Florida, Seminole County, that the children are to be heard. Now, I don't take my children in frivolously just to hear of the things that his father and I have to go through. And I am a caring parent. What in the world, what kind of gobbledygook did you just tell me?
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You haven't seen your kids in a while? That's a shame.
He choked them.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Susan Leventhal wants her ex-husband, Dr. Jerry Leventhal, to pay her for her son's medical and dental bills. Dr. Leventhal wants his former wife to stop stalking him and let him see his children.
What kind of gobbledygook did you just tell me? The children have to be heard where? Where?
In the court.
We're not talking about the children being heard in court, madam. I absolutely believe that children should be heard in court if there is an issue. That's why children are appointed law guardians or guardians ad litem, so that the children can be represented.
Your Honor, we do have a guardian ad litem, and this is a recommendation.
Do I look like I need help? I haven't finished with you on the money yet, sir. I'll get back to you on the money. This is about emotions and about money. You don't want to pay the money.
I never said I didn't want to pay the money.
That's clear. Listen, you don't want to pay the money. I can assure you that the other people that you discharged their debts in bankruptcy when you filed Chapter 7, sir, are not thrilled with you. Because I guarantee you, as a doctor, there will be a time in a year, 2 years, 5 years, when you'll be making a lot of money. And if you wanted to be an honorable person, what you do is you say to these other creditors, look, I have a business where I'm going to make a couple $100,000 a year. Give me 5 years or so. Give me 3 years, and I'm going to pay you off as best I can. Instead, you took the easy way out. You filed for Chapter 7, so you discharged a lot of your debts in bankruptcy. Don't shake your head. No, because that's what you did.
I discharged debts that she rung up.
Just a second.
A month after I got my position.
Oh, please. Dr. Leventhal, she may have good reason to be irritated with you, and I don't care what her reasons are to be irritated with you. What I'm hearing, madam, is emotionally, you're not doing the right thing for your kids. From bringing them to court, to sending them to his office with you. Please, Mrs. Leventhal, I've been involved in family court for 26 years. You think that this story is one that I've just heard once? Let's get going. Now, Mrs. Leventhal, does your former husband have a restraining order against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, when was that restraining order issued?
July the 1st, 1997.
And it was issued by a judge?
Yes.
Did you have a trial on it?
No, ma'am.
Did you have a lawyer representing you?
I did, and we objected without any testimony, without any evidence, and I had an restraint.
Can I see the final order, please?
May I help him? I put his papers together.
I know it's somewhere in here.
Your Honor.
Is that the final order?
No, this is a motion to ask.
I'm not asking for your motion. I'm asking for an order. And if an order hasn't been overturned, and I assume it has not?
We are going back to court tomorrow.
The answer is no, it has not. So it is in full force and effect, and it was issued a while ago.
July 1st, 1997.
That's right. The court, having heard testimony from the parties with regard to the issues of the husband's motion, the following is hereby ordered: that the former wife, that's you, shall not assault, molest, annoy, injure, threaten, stalk, or interfere with the former husband. You are restrained from going to his place of residence or place of employment, contacting employees or other physicians in the former husband's medical practice, have to stay more than 100 yards away from him. You can call him only for emergencies between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. And on and on and on and on and on.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Need help in a divorce dispute? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Did you take your 2 children to his bankruptcy hearing? Did you take your 2 children to his bankruptcy hearing?
No, I took them to court, but I did not take them into a bankruptcy hearing. No, ma'am.
Why did you take them to court?
Because he filed out of Orlando, Florida. I had to be present as a creditor all the way in Jacksonville, Florida. I had no one to take care of my children. My children were not present in a bankruptcy hearing.
You took your children to court?
Your Honor, children in America watch court every day.
Oh, Mrs.
Showing no disrespect.
Mrs. Leventhal, I mean, I'm reading these things, and certain of them are pretty standard. But what I'm talking about is the children. I'm talking about demeaning their father. And you say you don't do that.
No, ma'am.
Dr. Leventhal, let me tell you this, sir. Listen to me carefully.
Yes, ma'am.
Listen to me carefully. All you have to do is pay the money. You haven't seen your kids in a while?
July 12th is the last time I saw them, Your Honor.
That's a shame.
He choked them.
The conclusion of the case between Susan Leventhal and her ex-husband, Dr. Jerry Leventhal, will continue tomorrow on Judge Judy. For keeping her stuff after she moved out. Steve is countersuing Pam for rent and putting his cat to sleep.
Order. All rise. Thank you. Your Honor, this is case number 141 on the calendar in the matter of Goldgart versus Robinson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
Ms. Goldgart, according to your complaint, you dated the defendant on Monday, April 13th.
That's the first time I saw him.
You moved in with him on April 26th.
Yes.
On May 17th, he turned you out.
Yes.
Keeping your stuff.
Yes.
Can you tell me what prompts somebody to move in with a total stranger after less than 2 weeks?
Judge, I've been divorced for almost 12 years, and this man told me everything I had ever wanted to hear from any man in my life.
That should have been your first clue.
Maybe a red flag. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You're right.
Okay. You moved in April 26th. Things went from bad to worse, and on May 17th, he told you to leave.
Yes, he did.
And you kept her stuff.
Yes, I did.
Why?
She owes me money.
For what?
Rent, also phone bills, utilities.
Just a second. She lived in your house for 3 weeks. I assume that things were not happy between you, which is why you told her to leave.
Right.
You live there with your children?
No,
You live there alone?
not now.
But you were living there alone when she moved in with you.
No.
Who was living there?
Genora.
Who are you?
I'm his girlfriend.
You mean she was... Oh. Shay, I can't do this case if there's noise. Was she living there when you lived there?
No, it's the day that he kicked her out, he asked me to move in.
The day I
The
moved
night
out.
I left, he asked her to come back.
Oh, Mr. Robinson. Just a second. What's your name?
Genora.
Genora. Step up here, Genora. This is getting really fascinating. How long were you with him before he told you to leave?
He didn't tell me to leave.
You left.
I moved.
You moved.
Because of this.
Because he told her to move in.
No, I moved and then he said move in. He didn't even know I was leaving.
Why were you leaving?
Because I knew he was with her.
How long had you been with him before she moved in?
About 1.5 years.
Well, now, when you lived there, were you working?
Yes, I was.
And you were paying bills?
Yes, we split everything half and half.
So you had an oral agreement with him that you would split the bills down the middle?
Yes.
And, sir, you did not have that arrangement with the plaintiff?
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't, sir. Because even according to your answer, you say that you didn't have that agreement with her. According to your answer, you say, because it didn't work out and she moved out, I said that now she owes me for rent. So you didn't have that agreement with her when she moved in.
We had talked about sharing utilities, rent, phone bills.
When did you talk about it?
Before she moved in.
Is that right?
No.
No, you didn't, Mr. Robinson.
I have long-distance phone calls from Pittsburgh to Pennsylvania with her kids. And
I have no problem with paying the bill, Your Honor.
The phone bill?
Correct.
That's fine. How much
Prior
is the
to
phone
that,
bill?
we had not made
How much is the phone bill?
Well, also, Your Honor, we haven't got another bill yet from when before she moved out. I haven't even received
Mr. Robinson, let me tell you something. You seem to need to have a woman around you all the time, sir.
This part is...
Somebody to take care of you, somebody to take care of your house and everything else. I don't understand, but you seem to be able to get it. Give me the long-distance phone bill.
$12.50.
$12.50?
Yes.
$12.50. Perfect. Now, you have her stuff.
I have an itemized list also,
He's
Your
going to
Honor.
give you back all your stuff. Let me see. You moved in with a television?
Yes, I did.
You have a television?
A small one in the bedroom.
Whatever it is. You have her television that she
Yes,
moved
ma'am.
in with. And you have her entertainment wall unit.
Yes.
And you have her forehead VCR.
Yes.
And you have her queen-size comforters.
Yes.
Comforter.
And bed.
And
Okay.
Judge, I
and-
have no problem giving this back to her.
Good. Perfect. Okay, now, so all of her things within 72 hours, you arrange for the pickup. Okay. Now let's get to his counterclaim. I've already decided that he's not entitled to any rent, and I've already decided he's not entitled to any utilities but the $12 long-distance phone bill that you agreed to pay. Okay. The only part of his counterclaim that I am going to consider, and I want to hear about, is the fact that you took his cat and had his cat put to sleep. So that I want to hear about.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The very day that you found out that the cat was gone, you would have done everything in your power to locate it. It was not 5 days, not 4 days, not 3 days, not 2 days. That very day, you would have been in your car scouring every animal shelter in the city to try to find it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Pam Goldgard and Steve Robinson lived together for a brief time. Now, Pam is suing Steve for keeping her belongings, and Steve is suing Pam for rent and putting his cat to sleep.
Now let's get to his counterclaim.
Okay, that's one of the reasons I brought my daughter. When I moved in, I knew that he had the cat, that he was attached to the cat, the children were attached to the cat. I didn't tell him that I was allergic to cats. I thought, Pam, maybe it's a mind over matter type of thing. You can deal with it. I thought I was in love with the man. I was willing to deal with anything that came along with him. After a few days, the allergies just took over. He came in the living room one day. The allergies had taken over my eyes. They were tearing. He asked me what I was crying about. I said, I have to be very honest with you. I'm allergic to cats. He said, then the cat has to go. About a week went by. Nothing happened with the cat. I said, Steve, I have to do something about the cat. I was completely stuffed up. So he said, fine, do whatever you have to do as far as the cat. I called the animal control. The woman I spoke to had basically reassured me as far as not putting the animals to sleep. I never would have agreed to do what I did if I had known the animal would have been put to sleep. And this is what I found out from him a few days later, that the cat had been killed. I didn't know that. I would not have done that. I called the animal control. They said they would come and get the cat, which they did.
Did you tell him you were doing that?
The night before, he said, let's do what we have to do with the cat tomorrow. And
Let's is a contraction for let us.
Right.
So that's your first mistake. It's his cat. Let him take care of it.
Right, you're right.
So did you tell him that I'm calling animal control? Or you just figured that by his statement, let us take care of it, that let's take care of it, that he was giving you carte blanche to do whatever you wanted to do?
Yes, that's basically what.
So you didn't tell him what you were doing?
The night before we had discussed it, he said, let's do whatever we have to do tomorrow to take care of the cat.
Listen, my question to you is, you didn't say, I'm calling animal control.
No, he was not home. He was out for a job interview at that particular time that I called.
Now let's hear your version of the cat.
That cat was my children's cat. Okay. Now, I did not tell her to take it to the pound. We did not discuss it the night before.
No, okay. But let's talk about
I said
Mr. Robinson.
We need to find a place for the cat.
So you did have discussions about the cat because of her allergies?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And her allergies weren't getting any better?
Right.
And at that point, you anticipated that you were going to be together, I assume?
Right.
The night before, you say you had no discussion, and your only discussion with her was, we're going to have to find something to do with the cat.
Right. But not take it to the pound. No way.
Okay. What did you say to her about the cat?
I said that, yes, we need to find a place for it to live. Adopt.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much what she says. She says that she had no idea that they were going to euthanize this cat, and she thought that they were going to find it a home. What happened when you came home and found the cat not there? Tell me exactly.
She said to me, you're going to be mad at me. And I said, why? She said, I put the cat in a box, stuck it up at the rental office, and called the animal control.
Okay. So you immediately called animal control?
I couldn't get through to where the cat was, so I called Genora. And they said,
what you called Genora for?
Because she had access to a phone longer than I did. I was busy.
Mr. Robinson, Mr. Robinson, listen to me carefully. Somebody tells you, the woman that you're living with tells you that your children's cat, she's just given to animal control. You are totally taken aback. I don't care what else you have to do. You pick up the phone and you call. You don't call the old girlfriend to tell her to take care of your dirty business. I mean, I don't know. Genora, I want you to wake up, Genora. Just listen carefully, Genora. When did you finally call animal control, sir?
The next day, because she stated to me that there was going to be put for adoption. That she.
You called the next day.
Right.
And are you telling me that the next day they told you that they put the animal to sleep?
No, not at all. We could not get through. I couldn't even find the city where the cat was at. I
when did you find? Don't tell me you called Genora. How old are you? How old are you?
41.
What are you calling her for? Take care of your own business. When did you finally find out that the cat had been euthanized, sir?
On the 5th day.
On day 5?
Right.
You finally got unbusy enough to find out where the cat was?
Yes, ma'am.
And they told you after 5 days the cat had been put down?
On the 4th day it was euthanized.
Okay. Was it about the time that he found out the cat had been put to sleep that he told you to leave?
No, he found out after I left. After he asked me to leave, he then found out where the cat was located, tried to get the cat back, and then found out that the cat was no longer alive.
Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
How much after she left?
2 days.
1 day.
1 day? 1 day?
Yeah.
Could you sit down?
Sorry.
So you waited until after she left to find out where your cat was? Or you managed to find out where your cat was one day after
Right.
she left.
Immediately after she left.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
If you knew that he was making payments on the card on your behalf because you had no money, then you knew it wasn't a gift. So stop pulling my chain.
closed captioning sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Pam Goldgart is suing her short-term boyfriend, Steve Robinson, for keeping her stuff after she moved out. Steve is countersuing Pam for rent and putting his cat to sleep.
All right. I'm going to make the following order. All of your property is to be made available to you within 72 hours of this court date.
Okay.
I am awarding Mr. Robeson $12 for the phone bill.
Okay.
Mr. Robeson, I was appalled when I read your countersuit, where it said she took your cat and without your permission, without your children's permission, had the cat put to sleep. I mean, it sounded like something that a psychotic would do. But now that I hear this story, it seems to me that you had discussions. She was ill. The woman that you were living with at the time couldn't tolerate the cat. You tried to find an alternative home. I don't believe that she actually knew that the cat was going to be put to sleep at the time that she gave the cat to animal control. And I found that if you were so sincerely interested in having this cat returned to you, the very day that you found out that the cat was gone, you would have done everything in your power to locate it. Not 5 days, not 4 days, not 3 days, not 2 days. That very day, you would have been in your car scouring every animal shelter in the city to try to find it. Not telling me that you're too busy and you called the old girlfriend to try to get a number. So I think that your countersuit is a lot of baloney. That's the judgment of the court. All the property within 72 hours and $12 for you for the phone bill. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right.
The woman's a cat killer. I never gave her permission to do this. I was never going to be rid of the cat anyway. I was going to keep that cat. She was going before the cat was.
I didn't kill his cat. I never would have done that.
She needs to get her stuff back and get on with her life and put this all behind her. It was a big mistake.
And now the next case.
Parties on Moore versus Ryan. Step forward, please.
Hairdresser Rosie Moore claims manicurist Deborah Lynn Walton charged clothes on her credit card during the time she was engaged to Rosie's son, 29-year-old Timothy Moore. The engagement ended. Now Rosie wants Deborah Lynn to pay her back.
Mrs. Moore, according to your complaint, the defendant was engaged to your son.
Right.
And that while they were engaged, you allowed her to charge some clothes that she wanted on your credit card.
Right.
Son?
Yes, that's my son, Tim.
They broke up.
Yes.
She didn't pay the bill.
Right.
She says clothes were a gift.
Yes.
Okay. So let's hear about it.
We worked together in the same salon. She complained she had no clothes to wear because she had lost several pounds, and she was always complaining. Anyways, as a friend, as a future mother-in-law, I took her in like a daughter, took her into my own home, matter of fact, to live with me. Anyways, I took her, I told her I had this credit card that I don't have any expenses on, that I knew we could go in, we could charge, and you can make the payments on it. So we went in, she bought about several little pieces that mixed and matched and made about 4 or 5 outfits, over $300 worth. That was fine. I signed. She took the clothes home, and we were fine, and she was going to make the payment. She made several payments. Well, after a few payments that she had made, she had took on the back of the statements and changed the address to her address.
Does that sound right to you?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And also, I guess, gave herself authority to have authorization on my credit card, which I knew nothing about.
Now you get a big bill.
Now at Christmas time, I go to use it again to find something for presents. And the lady tells me that with my charge, plus cash payment, that I would have my credit card maxed out. And I couldn't believe it because I hadn't used it since I had used it last on her.
Did you ascertain how much the balance was?
Over $700, $713.
You have a statement?
Yes.
Can I see it, please?
The $713 was that she
okay, let me see what you have.
owed me, and then that's the proof of the last couple of payments that I have made. And that's the balance of today and the June payment also.
You say the balance was $713.35. Is that correct?
In December, right.
Now, before you dig a hole for yourself and try to explain to me why this was a gift, I have a few questions.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
If this was a gift, why would you have anything to do with the bills?
For one, her son, she would, call at home and say that she, was short of money, she needed to pay this bill or that bill. Make sure that you bring something for that. He would make out. I never had a checking account. I never even made payments. I would give cash to him and he would make the payments.
What you're telling me is it was he who paid the bill?
Correct.
Your name, sir?
Timothy Moore.
Mr. Moore, the defendant says that you were the one who actually paid this bill on a monthly basis for a period of time. Look at me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that true?
No.
Was the account changed in her name or in his name?
Neither. It was it was always in my name.
I
She
know.
gave herself authorization to charge on my account.
Her, not him.
Right.
Not your son.
No.
I'd love to explain.
I'm ready.
It all started when I came back from Dallas, Texas. We were open arms, welcome back, into Rosie's home. And at the time, I was working with basically a zero clientele. I had no money, and that's when the initial purchase was made.
Well, just tell me how that came about. She said to you, I have a credit card that has a zero balance at this department store. You can find yourself some things.
Right.
The bills would come, she would give you the bill, and you would pay it.
No, I personally would not pay it. Timothy would. Because I didn't make any money.
Just a second. So he would pay it because you weren't earning any money at that time, but
Correct.
you knew he was making the payments on
Correct.
the card.
Correct.
Well, therefore, madam, you knew that this wasn't a gift. If you knew that he was making payments on the card on your behalf because you had no money, then you knew it wasn't a gift. So stop pulling my chain. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $713.35. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Hopefully, maybe we can work on a friendship now. Bygones be bygones, I guess.
I think she definitely was deceitful in the whole matter. She always has been. She always likes to tell stories.
Maybe this will turn her life around and she'll move forward and try not to do this anymore.
Lauren says the money was used for child support.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 164 on the calendar in the matter of Cardenas versus Cardenas. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
You folks are currently divorced,
Yes, ma'am.
and you, sir, are under a $1,200 a month support obligation
Yes, ma'am.
for your former wife and your two children.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, in addition to your wife and your two children, you also used to have a motorcycle.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were called back to the Philippines where your family is.
Right, because my dad was debilitated.
And you left your motorcycle with your former wife to sell.
Yes, ma'am. In an agreement that because of the time of my absence, at least when she sells the motorcycle, there'll be the month that will be paid for the child support because of my stay in the Philippines.
Okay, so you left her your motorcycle and you said sell it.
Right.
And use some of the money to pay my month's support obligation.
Correct.
And how long were you in the Philippines?
Approximately a month.
And when you came back, you had in fact sold the motorcycle.
Yes, ma'am, I did. Yes,
I
ma'am.
assume you have a bill of sale for me?
I have a receipt from the company telling how much I got for it and what it was.
Fine. And how much did you get for the motorcycle?
$3,400 for the condition it was in.
Okay. And you left, according to these papers, in April.
Correct.
Were you fully paid up in April?
Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am, he was not.
According to your wife, your former wife, you were not fully paid up in April. You still owed her something, like $300. Is that right?
Yes.
In which I paid cash before I left.
Did you always pay it by check?
No, not always.
No, his
because we
checks
had
bounced.
So he would pay you in cash?
Whenever I could get it in cash, that's what I preferred.
Mr. Cardenas, how long are you divorced?
A year.
Approximately a year.
In the future, you should give your wife a money order, not cash.
I know.
Do you understand?
Well, the only...
Take a deep breath. Try to listen to me. Try to listen to me.
Okay.
If you give her a money order, then you will have a receipt.
I understand that from now on,
Good.
Judge.
She says your checks bounce. She doesn't want a check.
That's correct.
I can understand that. But there is a happy medium. You give her money orders.
She always have the money, and I always tell, like I told her.
Not always. Just pay attention.
I am.
Good. So from now on, you're going to give her your support payments in a money order.
Money order or check, correct?
No. You say check. I said money order.
Money order, all right.
Money order is where you go to the bank and get a money. Are you chewing gum?
Yes, ma'am.
No. Okay. Let's not talk about April. April is $300. You came back in May.
Yes.
Did you pay your May support payment?
I did not because he sold the motorcycle.
So you didn't pay May?
I didn't.
So let us take off $1,200 for May.
Less $100 because he owes me, she owes me $2,000, which I loaned to her.
Are you supposed to pay him $100 a month?
Yes, I had originally was going to pay his life insurance policy.
Right now, you're supposed to pay him $100 a month?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So $3,400 you got for the motorcycle.
Yes, ma'am.
Less $1,200 for your May support payment is $2,200 plus $100, right? Because you're supposed to get from her $100.
Right.
Right? So that means that you should have gotten $2,300. Is that right? Now, did you pay June?
No, he didn't.
You didn't pay June?
Correct.
So less $1,200.
May I appeal also?
Just a second. Less $1,200 brings it down to $1,100. And you still are supposed to give him the $100.
Yes, ma'am.
So we got to add on another $100 there. Now we're up to $1,200. Now we're now in July. Did you pay July?
No, the reason being...
Did you pay July?
No, because he said you paid up till July.
Just a second. So you didn't pay July?
No, because she stated that I'm paid up till July from the sale of the motorcycle.
Just a second. So you said, I'm paid up till July, so you didn't pay her in July.
Correct.
So $1,200 less $1,200 leaves zero.
Plus $100.
Plus $100. So what are you here for? What are you here for?
Well, the motorcycle is in a mint condition. I have my witness here that he could testify that the only thing wrong was it's got a flat tire. And all the thing that he's saying about the deductions, it's not true because...
Shh, just a second. So what you're saying is she should have gotten more for the motorcycle.
Correct.
But you didn't tell her what to get for the motorcycle. You left her the motorcycle to sell.
Yes, and I asked for the receipt, which she didn't give me.
Oh, well, let's give him the receipt. Is this it? Now he's got a receipt. Now you got a receipt.
Why did she wait till I get down
here? Just a second. Now you got the receipt. And you didn't tell her, don't sell the motorcycle unless you get $4,000 for it. You said, here's the motorcycle, sell it. She sold it. She may have taken the easiest way.
No, I told her she was going to get $4,200 for the motorcycle.
You told her she was going to get it. What do you have, a crystal ball?
No, it's a blue book value.
Did you say to her, don't sell the motorcycle unless you get $4,200? Did you say that? Yes or no?
I told her at least $4,200.
No. Don't make it up as we go along.
No, I'm not making it up.
Yes, don't make it up. Did you say to her, do not sell the motorcycle unless you get this amount for it?
No, I did not.
Perfect. So she took the motorcycle and she sold it. She probably sold it the easiest way she could. She didn't put an ad in the paper. She didn't drive around the motorcycle with a helmet on, around the street with a for sale sign. She took it to a dealer and said, give me the money. Is that what you did?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. That's what I would have done. She got $3,400 for it, which means that you paid up for 3 months. And you didn't pay her anything. May, June, and July. Now, sir, I could understand you standing here if you said, well, when I came back, I gave her $1,200 in May, I gave her $1,200 in June, I gave her $1,200 in July. She owes me the money for the motorcycle. But I don't understand why you're here.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That's outrageous.
The truth has to come out.
You picked them. Mrs. Cardenas.
Are we all entitled to one mistake?
You made a big one.
And later today,
I took care of my mother for 7 long years while she was sick. I did everything. I took care of this child.
No, she did not take care of me.
I
She
went-
kicked me out.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joelle Cardenas wants the balance of the money from the motorcycle his ex-wife, Lauren Cardenas, sold. Lauren says she used it because he was behind in child support.
Why are you here? I'm very confused.
The reason why I'm here is to be able to get, if there's any amount of balance, which I didn't even know because she didn't tell me.
I see.
Your Honor,
All
he did
right,
know.
so-
I told him from the beginning how much I got for it. I did not have a receipt at that time. I had to go get it for court. I knew I'd have to have one for court. But from the beginning, he called me a liar. He told my children I was lying to him. You know, and he has told them horrendous things, and it all goes around money. Everything around him revolves around money.
That's too bad.
And it is, because he wants the children. He wants to take them away from me. He wants to take them to the Philippines. 14 years ago, I almost aborted my first one. I never told her. A few weeks ago, he decided she needed to know this. This is what I'm dealing with in him.
Mr. Cardenas, did you do that? Did you tell that to your daughter? Did you tell that to your daughter, sir?
Yes, I did.
That's outrageous. Do you think, Mr. Cardenas, that that was designed to make your child feel better about herself?
No.
Did you think that that was designed to make her feel
No,
better?
I feel that the truth has to come out.
Listen, Mrs. Cardenas.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have enough years to get through to him, if that's his answer to me. Unfortunately.
That's his answer.
Unfortunately, what did you do? You picked him. Mrs. Cardenas.
Are we all entitled to one mistake?
You made a big one.
Yes, I did.
The only thing that you can try to do is, if this is the response from a man who has 2 children, who he's supposed to love and nurture, to make sure that they grow up feeling really good about themselves, wanted and loved and secure, to tell a child her mother wanted to abort her so that she would be in a jar instead of sitting in a chair, that is the most despicable thing that I tell you that I've heard in a very long time. So, Mr. Cardenas, you take your attitude about child rearing and your lawsuit and get out of here. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back up to your right, please.
Why didn't she told me the very beginning? Then I wouldn't have gone to this whole thing.
As far as my children go, I wish that I could actually even told her in more detail what he done, because I need somebody of authority to tell him how he's destroying them. He doesn't see it.
And now the next case.
Parties on Werrick versus Stanky. Step forward, please.
20-year-old Monica Wyrick is suing her sister, 23-year-old Jennifer Stanky, over a check from their grandfather's estate.
You 2 young ladies are sisters.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
And this lawsuit isn't about a lot of money.
No.
According to you, your grandfather left some money. $500. $506. Your sister got the check. You think that half of it belongs to you. Well, what I'm interested in more than this little bit of money that we're talking about is why you would bring your sister to court for that kind of money.
Well, Your Honor, when my mother died in 1994, she kept everything
in the house, everything. She kicked me out. I was 16 years old. I didn't have anything. We don't have any family at all, you know.
So it's just the two of you?
Yes.
Even more of a reason not to squabble over a little bit of money. Your position is that this money should go for something else.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me hear.
Okay, when I found out about the estate of my grandfather and found out about the money, I contacted my sister about it. They didn't even know that she existed. They only thought that I was the only child. I brought her in. I said, Monica, we're getting some money from my grandfather. She agreed on one thing.
Was this your maternal grandfather, your mother's father?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And I told her, whatever we got, if it was $2, $10,000, $500, the first thing we were supposed to do is buy my mother a headstone.
You mean your mother is buried without a headstone?
Yes, ma'am. I was 19 at the time. I had a 6-month-old daughter. My sister was 15. She was turning 16 in March. My mother died in August. I took care of everything. I took care of my mother for 7 long years while she was sick.
How old was she when she died?
47. I did everything.
She had cancer?
Yes, ma'am. I did everything. I took care of this child.
How old was she when your mother died?
15.
No, she did not take care of me.
I
She
went-
kicked me out.
I went to the courts because I lost the house that my mother was buying because I was only 19 at the time. They didn't think I was more mature enough. My cousin came to me and said, let me take her. You have a 6-month-old. Your mother just passed away. You know, let me help you, okay? She went, she was there 2 weeks in Ocala. Because her boyfriend couldn't spend the night with her, she ran away. I brought her back into my custody. Of Christmas, we got into it.
You got into a fight?
Yes, ma'am. I hit her. I went to jail for hitting her.
How long were you incarcerated?
I was 24 hours. I couldn't do it anymore. A year later, she called me. She had no food, no lights, no nothing. And since of '96, I've been taking care of her.
Oh.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why is she waiting now after 4 years to get my mother a headstone?
I think her name should be on it, beloved mother, and the year.
It's her way or no way.
Closed captioning sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Monica Wyrick wants her sister, Jennifer Stanky, to give her half the money she received from their grandfather's estate. Jennifer says the money is for their mother's headstone.
Listen to me. She wants to use this money to buy your mother a headstone. Stop a sec. Don't you think your mother should have a headstone?
Oh, yes, I do. But why is she waiting now after 4 years to get my mother a headstone?
Where? Just a second. Did you have money to contribute to your mother's headstone?
No, I actually did. I could have used my income tax money like she could have used hers, which she had gotten around $1,000. But instead, she went and spent it on her boyfriend.
Shh. Listen to me. Listen to me. Right now, you're dealing with some unexpected money. You're dealing with $500, not enough to buy a really fancy headstone.
Right.
But for something. You only had one mother. Did you care about your mother?
Oh, I loved my mother. Of course I did.
So?
But the reason I didn't let her keep the $253 because I knew she wasn't going to use it towards the headstone. She has said that 4 years in a row, and she never once tried to even get my mother a headstone.
Let me ask you this question. If I could assure you that this money would be used to buy your mother a headstone, would you be prepared to use it for that purpose?
The problem is, okay, fine, I agree to, you know, spending the money on my mother's headstone because I love my mother to death. Always have, always will. But we won't agree on, you know, exactly what, you know, we want on my mother's headstone.
Okay, listen.
It's her way or no way.
Just a second. We're going to resolve everything today. First, we're going to use that money, and you can go together to make sure that the money is used for that purpose to satisfy you if you want to. And I will have an order prepared for that purpose. But let's not leave today without deciding what's to be written on the headstone. How's that? I mean, I've never done that before.
Hey, good idea.
I mean, I've never done that before for strangers.
Good idea.
I've done it, unfortunately, for myself,
The only
but not
thing
for
I
strangers.
said was, it charges more for writing. I think her name should be on it, beloved mother, and the year. She doesn't need a long speech.
Yes, she does. She deserves it.
Okay. Now the question is, everything that you write, listen,
costs more.
Shh. Everything, every letter that you write in the stone costs money. Can we agree that if your mother's name, beloved mother, the date of her birth and the date that she died, is what you can get for $525, which is a very small amount of money, then that's what it'll be. If he's prepared to write more on the stone for the same money, she would like something else on the stone. Are you prepared to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me what else you're shaking your head like this.
You just don't know her. She's
no, me.
What I'm
You
telling you is
me.
this is
You
going...
killed my animals.
Hey,
what more?
hey. This is going to be reduced to an order. So I'm trying to get the order down so that we have the entire order so that there are no mistakes. Do you understand?
Oh, I understand.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
What else do you want on the stone?
Maybe not so much the writing, maybe just the color of the headstone. Because they have a pink marble headstone that I have looked at, you know, because when my mother was buried, she did everything wrong.
You would prefer a pink marble?
Yes, I would.
Okay. If you can get the pink marble for the same price, I somehow doubt it, but if you can get the pink marble for the same price, your sister's prepared to agree to that, aren't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. What else? Good. So the order that the court will have drafted is as follows, that the $506 will be used to purchase a headstone for your mother. And the writing is not a problem because the writing is exactly as you've indicated and you've agreed to. Her name, beloved mother, the year of her birth, and the year of her death. It will be a pink marble stone as per your request if that can be honored at the same $525 price. Agreed? Agreed?
Yeah.
Great. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Judge, this is number 84 on the calendar in the matter of Heron versus Brown. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
This is a sad case. Sit down. Pay attention to me, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Heron, this is your daughter, I assume.
Yes, Your Honor.
You are suing the defendant, who is the mother of this young man, I assume.
Yes, I am.
Because you say that her son made your daughter pregnant. She had a miscarriage. Your medical bills for the miscarriage were almost $2,000, and you want her to pay half. Is that what this lawsuit is about?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I'd like you to step up here. You too. When did your daughter tell you she was pregnant?
The date was, what was the date? I don't
end of September, I believe.
It was around the end of September. That's when I learned of it.
Were you dating?
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
I know what the lawsuit is with regard to Mr. Heron. I'd like to hear from you as to why you don't believe you should be responsible for half of these medical bills. Your son is how old, 16?
16, yes. First of all, I don't believe that I'm responsible for half these medical bills because there was never a paternity test to prove that Dontrell was the father. Plus, all the stress that her dad put on her after he found out she was pregnant. I think it was about the latter part of August, I got a call from Mr. Heron telling me that Denise had got caught shoplifting a home pregnancy test, and he was really upset and telling me that he had been nice to Dontrell and Dontrell had took advantage, and when I told him, well, it wasn't all Dontrell's fault, and then he tells me, well, yeah, she's the one that came to your house like a common
and laid up with them. And so then the next thing I know, she's crying, saying that he had beat her.
Who beat her?
Her father, because he wasn't gonna let her have a, can I say the word?
I would prefer you didn't.
Okay, well, baby. And she stayed with her friends' houses, and even my daughter was concerned about her and was gonna let her stay with her because she was going through a bunch of turmoil. And I feel that all the stress that he put on her, and first of all, you know that being pregnant for the first time, you're scared as it is.
Well, it should, how old are you?
16.
16?
And to have undue stress and pressure put on you by someone that's supposed to be protecting you then. So I feel that he caused a miscarriage by all the stress, and that there was never a paternity test to say that Dontrell was a father. I don't see how he can tell me that I'm responsible for half the medical bills.
Mr. Herron, I'd like to hear from you.
Yes. This is absurd for them to even suggest that her son is not the father. It's an insult and it's appalling.
Well, I don't think it's an insult and it's appalling, Mr. Herron, at all. Quite frankly, I'll address that. I'll address that first, and then I'll get to the stress part.
I would like to say that my daughter has been an honor student for her tenure in school. She's currently the treasurer of her high school. She was elected that. She doesn't sleep around or fool around or anything. This was the only boy that she had been seeing. And the first time I met this young man was he had been arrested for drugs at his junior high school. Helen here, she's is pulling, anything, this stuff about beating Denise is just totally absurd.
Is that true, sir?
It's absolutely not.
Did your father hit you, Denise?
No.
No. Would you tell me if he did?
Yes.
Mr. Herron, what Ms. Brown is saying is not so bizarre as you may think, sir. Two 16-year-olds having sex unprotected, whether it was with him or with anybody else, is stupid. Two 16-year-olds having sex is stupid. Two 16-year-olds having unprotected sex is more stupid, or as my grandson would say, stupider. So, while I'm certain that Dontrell would probably stand up here and proclaim from the rooftops that this was his baby, is that right?
Yes. Well, even after the miscarriage, they stopped by the house. She even offered to help Denise raise the child.
His mother is a little more practical. His mother says, I'm not sure, because 16-year-old with all that testosterone flowing says, yes, the baby is mine. His mother says, how can you be sure?
Well, it's the only thing she has for her defense. This is her defense in chief, and it's all she's got.
Well, Mr. Herron, it's a very good defense, sir.
Well, when I asked her to, didn't offer, a dime, and she knows deep in her heart, she professes to be a Christian and to come to this court and even suggest that he's not the father.
That's not what she's suggesting, sir. She's not suggesting that he's not the father.
But there's a possibility that...
What she's saying is, under the law, in this jurisdiction and in every other jurisdiction, when you have a child out of wedlock, there is no presumption as who the father is. And in order to determine that, we now have very sophisticated testing to determine parentage of children. You know about those tests. They're blood tests, they're DNA tests, and they can prove within 100% who's the father of that child. What Ms. Herron is saying is, under the law, there is no proof that Dontrell is the father of this child. When you're married, it's a different story. When you're married, the law presumes that you are.
So we're left to go with a preponderance of the evidence here, which my daughter doesn't sleep around. They know that. They know what kind of girl she is. She doesn't have time for it. She's an honor student. She's, keep track of her, as best I can.
You didn't keep track of her very well, sir.
But if she was such an
Just a second, you didn't keep track of her very well.
Well, I said as best I can. I do operate a business, and
Mr. Herron, that's what Ms. Brown is saying.
But if she was such an honorable student and such an honorable person, she wouldn't have swore to tell the truth and then turned around and lied that you never beat her.
You're the one who's...
Listen to me, don't fight with each other. Did you tell Dontrell, who was your boyfriend, that your father hit you at some point in the kitchen in your home, because that's what's in these papers. Did you tell? No, look at me. Don't look at the floor, Miss Herron. Did you tell that to him?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If my 16-year-old daughter came home pregnant, I guarantee you there'd be a lot of stress in my household. A lot of stress.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. The father of 16-year-old Denise Herron wants Helen Brown to pay the medical cost for Denise's miscarriage because he says Helen's son, Dontrell, was the father.
Did you tell Dontrell, who was your boyfriend, that your father hit you?
Yes.
Hmm?
Yes, I was upset.
So you told that to Dontrell, that your father hit you. What did you tell him about your father hitting you?
What do you mean, what did I tell?
I want you to tell me what you told him.
I said that he was yelling and got mad at me and started hitting on me.
Where did he hit you?
Hmm?
Where did he hit you?
He didn't. I just told him that I was upset.
Well, why would you tell him that?
Because I was scared he was going to.
So what you did was you told Dontrell a lie. Is that right? Hmm?
Yes.
Do you understand, Mr. Herron?
Yeah, I understand that I'm out $2,000 in medical bills for an instance that I'm not responsible for. And
listen, you are responsible for it. You are responsible for it because this is your daughter.
Yeah, I can't watch all the time just saying that she can't watch her son, but nonetheless, we're responsible for our minor's actions.
Absolutely
now,
right,
I'm willing
sir.
to accept the risk, but why should the burden of this whole thing be placed on me?
Mr. Herron, if your daughter had not had this miscarriage, and if she had had a child, and if there was a paternity test, excuse me, if there was a paternity test, and if it was established that this young man was the father of the child, he would be responsible for the support of that child, along with your daughter, until the child reached age 21. Right now, what Miss Brown is saying is that while she believes probably that Dontrell is the father of this child, she's not certain. And she's not certain because of the miscarriage, there is no opportunity to conduct blood tests. And they are not married, so the law does not presume her son is the father of this child. So she doesn't feel as if she should be responsible. And in the law,
Well,
she's
certain. She knows.
How does she know? Listen, the only way you can be certain is if you were there.
That's you. She knows, though she's not admitting to it. You know, she knows. If you ask her in her heart if she feels that there could be anybody other than her son, what would you say, Helen? Does Denise
What's
sleep
in my
around?
heart? I don't know what Denise does. I don't watch Denise.
Tell the court what you think.
I don't watch Denise 24 hours a day, but up until this
You
point,
don't watch him 24 hours.
May I speak, please? I really, like I said, when all of this happened, Denise came to me and I opened up my home and I was there for her. And I really had hoped that she would be lady enough to tell the truth here. But if she can stand here and lie and say that he never hit her and he didn't put her out, why should I believe that it was my son's baby? Because it's so easy for her to tell one lie, she could have told another lie.
Well, what she's already done is she's acknowledged here, after some prodding, that she did, in fact, she says, lie to your son about her father beating her. Now, whether her father beat her or not is really not the issue, but it is an indication that your daughter is able to lie, sir, because she says she lied to him. You understand that? And I understand where you're coming from. You say, listen, there should be two people's responsibility.
Well,
I absolutely agree with you, Mr.
Quite
Herron.
a bit of lying going on. It seems as if Mr. Trell here would be following in his father's footsteps, who I guess is...
What does his father have to do with
Mr. Herron, don't bring... I would suggest, sir, that you not bring other matters into this case which really bear no relevance to it. Dontrell, I'm going to tell you this. You believe that you were the father of this child?
Yes.
Then you pay back Mr. Herron. Do you understand?
Yes.
Then you, sir, have a moral, if not a legal obligation, to do that. Now, you go to school?
Yes.
Do you work?
Yes.
What do you work at?
At a senior citizen's home.
How much do you get paid?
$5 an hour.
And what do you do with that money?
Oh, I haven't gotten paid
Speak
yet.
up, sir.
I haven't gotten paid yet, ma'am.
When did you start working there?
It's just a summer job.
And you're going to keep that summer job?
Yes.
Well, then I would suggest, Mr. Brown, that if you want to try to get back into this family's reasonable graces, you're never going to get into their good graces, but reasonable, and assume some sort of moral responsibility for an act that you probably had something to do with, you will see to it that each time you get a paycheck, Mr. Heron gets a check or a money order. Do you understand? Hey.
Yes.
What are you looking at? Where are you looking all over the place? Do you understand that?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You got to learn to keep your pants zipped up, sir.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Vincent Heron says Helen Brown's teenage son made his teenage daughter pregnant, so they should share the medical costs.
Your mother is quite correct. She's not responsible because they're not able to establish, because there's no baby here, that you're the father of this child. If you believe that you are, sir, you pay for it. You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Well, are you going to do it?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
No, I don't.
And I'm the only one lying here?
Just a second. I'm telling you this. I don't know whether you two young people still see each other, either with your parents' knowledge or without their knowledge. But if there is any remote possibility that you will have a long-term relationship, any, you better start paying back Mr. Heron. And listen to me, Denise. Look at me. I'm not going to ask you whether you still see him, because I'm not going to create any more difficulty than already exists. But if he doesn't start making those payments, starting this week when he gets paid to your father, I would suggest to you that he does not have the kind of character that you want to hook up with permanently. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Good.
Your Honor, would a preponderance of the evidence suggest here that if he says that he's the father, I know that he is, Denise knows, Helen knows, but wouldn't the preponderance of the evidence indicate that I should get some kind of judgment?
Absolutely not, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely not, sir.
Mm-hmm.
There is not a
It's
preponderance. Listen to
as
me.
much in her favor as it is in mine.
Listen to me. Listen to me. You could bring anybody in off the street and say, I believe that they're the father of this unborn child. I want to be paid half of my outlay of medical costs. The only question that I asked your daughter here today, Mr. Heron, was whether or not you beat her. She said initially no. Then we went back to her and I said, did you tell him that your father beat you? She said yes. Listen to me. You say it never happened. That means somebody is lying. Do you understand?
There's no record of violence at our house at all.
No, listen to me. Your daughter said, Mr. Heron, that she told Dontrell that you beat her. That was, therefore, according to you, a lie. Is that right?
What does that have to do with the responsibility of the medical bills here? This is what I'm suing for.
Mr. Heron, you wanted, in order for you to establish, to my satisfaction, by a preponderance of the evidence, sir, that this unborn child was his child, I would have to believe...
He said, I said it, she
no,
said it. She's the
I
only
would have to believe your daughter. In a situation where the law in this jurisdiction does not hold any presumption of paternity, I am not prepared to do that. The only thing I am prepared to do is to make a moral judgment that if this young man believes that he is the father of this child, then he has the moral responsibility at age 16 to defray some of the medical costs. But his mother does not have that responsibility, because she is entitled to know whether her son fathered this child before she puts her hand in her pocket.
But yet I'm responsible for my minor. She's not responsible for hers, you know.
No, sir, unfortunately, as the father of a daughter, that's true. That's true. It seems somewhat inequitable. That's what they have paternity tests for, sir.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Could I suggest this without the paternity test to indicate that it's 1 in a million chance? Is there a possibility to get part of the judgment? I mean, instead of saying that I'm wrong totally, I mean...
No, Mr. Heron, I just told you he's supposed to pay the whole $900 because that's half of your medical bills, $900 and some odd dollars. What is it?
With me saying that I think the baby is mine, but would it matter the cause of the miscarriage? 'Cause like
No. Doesn't matter the cause of the miscarriage, sir. That's what you put in your answer. You say because her father placed her under a great deal of stress. No. Listen to me. I'm going to get on his case. I want you to be quiet. What you're saying is because her father placed her under a great deal of stress, that caused the miscarriage. And therefore, you shouldn't be responsible. I want to tell you something. If my 16-year-old daughter came home pregnant, right, and the father, she said, was another 16-year-old who went to high school, I guarantee you there'd be a lot of stress in my household. A lot of stress. You got to learn to keep your pants zipped up, sir. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Keep yourself busy. Get 2 jobs. Think. Use your brain. You know, this is the time for you to use your brain. I know using other parts of your anatomy don't require that much effort, all right? But get 2 jobs because he's out money, and if what you believe is true, that you are the father of this child, if you believe that, then you have a responsibility, even at age 16, to help defray the costs. We understand each other?
Yes.
That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
On the next Judge Judy. Alyssa goes with Steve. Steve and Maria had a baby. Alyssa says Maria keyed her Mustang.
Don't give me a lot of baloney. I know everything.
Real people. Judge Judy.
We discussed this in here. I don't want to get into it. If you want to question them, I'm through with the case.
This is really ludicrous that we'd have to be drug into court behind it. I mean, I thought it was a joke when he told me that he was suing me. I really did, because I didn't see how he could. I wouldn't want him to be seeing her anyway, because I don't trust this guy, because he's a total nutcase. He's a totally unbalanced, and if he was to catch them together, if he beat up his own daughter, I'd hate to see what he did to my son.
I just think he was trying to get more money than what, because the bill wasn't really no $900. His insurance paid for half of it, so he's trying to get more into his pocket.
Yeah. 25-year-old Cammie Holman says 24-year-old vacuum salesman Jeffrey Slater swept her off her feet, conning her and her mother, Lois Teeters, out of thousands of dollars. Jeffrey says after he and Cammie split up, she began harassing him for money.
Order, all rise. This is number 252 on the calendar in the matter of Teeters, Holman versus Slater. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Who's Mrs. Teeters? Is that you? Miss Holman? Yeah. Mother and daughter? Yes. Former live-in boyfriend?
Correct.
I have 2 complaints here, and according to both complaints, at some point you met him and he moved into your house. And did you move in there with your child, sir?
Yes.
You have a daughter?
Yes.
How old is she?
3.
You have custody of her?
Not full custody, no.
Were you living with her full time when you moved into their house?
With my daughter, partial time, half and half.
Okay. And according to the complaint, during the time that he lived there, each of you were foolish enough to let him use a credit card, and he ran up substantial bills on those credit cards, and then took off. Why don't you start? First, what prompted you to let him move into the house?
Well, I was going to rent a room to somebody anyway to help me make ends meet, and they were getting together, and he was interested in moving out from his mother's place. She was driving him nuts or something, so he needed a place to live. So it worked out. It seemed fine for both of us.
But according to these papers, he moved into your daughter's room.
Yes, they were a couple by then.
So that didn't help to pay your bills if...
Well, he was going to pay rent. Yes, he was paying rent.
He was paying rent?
Yes, he paid the rent.
How much rent did he pay?
$400 a month.
Okay, now would you mind telling me why you gave him a credit card?
It started out just, you know, he wanted to make some purchases, and he only got paid every 2 weeks, and he was gaining weight, needed clothes and what have you, and he would give me a post-dated check. And
I let him do that, and he did. The first couple of purchases, he gave me a check, and I held it, and then, you know, when he got paid and it was good, I mailed it in to the credit card company.
Did you give him his own credit card, or did you just let him use yours?
No, he had authorization. Cammie has copies of my cards. We have, you know, 2 cards on the account, so if she was with him and they were shopping, they would get something and put it on my card. And he gave me a check and paid me back. So the first 2 or 3 times, you know, that was swell, it worked. And he wanted to make some larger purchases, and the arrangement...
Like what?
Oh, well, he was trying to build his car to race, so he wanted like a transmission, and he had this good deal and a converter and different things that he was buying. And the arrangement was that he would make the payments to the credit card company, and that worked for me because then I didn't have to come up with the minimum. My minimum would be met. And he would get behind, like it would be 2 or 3 months, I'd get phone calls from the creditors and they'd say, you're behind, and I would check with him and he'd say, oh, I mailed it, I'll call him and straighten it out. So he did make some small payments on the minimums on the account. I can't say for the first few months because it would be 2 or 3 months before he made a payment, but you see, you know,
Okay, now
over
how
a
much
period
does
of
he owe
time.
altogether on your credit card? Take it out. We'll show it to him. Together with the purchases.
The total that I have mine made up for is $4,926.60. That's documented amounts.
Okay. Have you shown those to him, those charges?
Yes, he has copies. He
You
has
have
been
copies
given
of those,
copies
sir?
in the past of all
I've had
of them.
copies. I don't have them with me now.
But you've seen them?
I've seen them, yeah.
Good. Now, what about your credit card?
Okay, my credit card started out with he needed a gas tank fixed in his 68 Camaro because at the beginning of our relationship, that was his transportation to work. He didn't have the money.
First, what prompted you to have him come into your house? How long had you known each other before you decided to move him into your house?
We were friends before, and then we got together, and we were together every day since. And so
How long?
How long? That once we got together.
Now, how long were you friends first?
Oh, May of '96.
Yes.
And then got together July 4th.
Of '96?
Yes.
A really long courtship. At least 8 weeks.
Well, he's a very smooth talker. I was also coming out of a bad marriage, and it's nice when someone tells you, you know, all these wonderful things about you and makes you feel wanted and loved, which is what I needed at the time, I guess. And I think he played on that too, but that's a personal thing.
So he moved in?
Yes. And we made a room for his daughter. She had her very own room. My mom and I purchased all the stuff to decorate it. We made them, it was their home.
Are any of these bills for what you did in furnishing his daughter's room?
No. And Tiffany has her bedding and stuff. Her mother has it. She uses it with Tiffany.
But those were gifts?
Right, those were gifts, yes.
Okay, but so now tell me about how you came to give him your credit card.
He needed a gas tank, like I said, the repair, and he didn't have the money. And, you know.
Did you know that he was already using your mother's credit card?
No, he hadn't. He used mine before he used my mom's.
Did you know that he had used your daughter's before you let him use yours?
I don't really remember if I knew it specifically that he had.
Go ahead.
So we got his gas tank repaired. He was driving a long distance, and he'd run out, basically have to fill up just to get back home because it was all pouring out on the ground.
And how much was that?
That was $120. That's rough. I mean, I have it of the credit card thing.
Okay, but there are a lot of bills here, according to you. $3,000 some odd worth.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She came in just ranting and raving because I was leaving. She didn't want me to leave. And then after she hit me, I defended myself and pushed her to the ground. Yes, I did.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 25-year-old Cammie Holman says the man she thought she loved, 24-year-old Jeffrey Slater, conned her and her mother, Lois Teeters, out of thousands of dollars. Jeffrey says Cammie is angry because they broke up.
Give me an idea of what he was purchasing on your credit card.
On mine specifically?
Not yours.
Robinson's May. He needed new clothes. Like my mom stated, he had gained weight when we got together. I guess he liked my mom's cooking. I don't know. So there were lots of purchases for new clothes for him, as well as one of his mom's Christmas present was purchased on my Robinson's May card.
Did you purchase your mother's Christmas present on her credit card?
She purchased it, yeah.
He was with me at shopping. His mother would not have gotten a Christmas present, or her boyfriend, if it hadn't been me paying for it.
Well, I understand that, but did he say, can I buy my mother a Christmas present and put it on your card?
No.
Shh. Did he say that to you?
He said, I said, we need to go shopping and buy your mom something. He said, well, what should we do? I said, well, let's go to Robinson's May and get something for her. So we went, because I have a Robinson's May card. But that's only $21.54. That's...
Well, you see, that's a problem.
Right.
Because in order to have an agreement for him to pay you back, there has to be some sort of an agreement. This wasn't a, you know, I'll lend you the money to buy your mom a Christmas present.
So we can get rid of the Christmas
so
present.
give me
that's
some
fine.
others.
Okay, so he got clothes for him, $297.25, $132.50, $43.09. Those are all clothes for him.
Give me some of the big bills that come up to $3,000.
Jacob's
madam.
electronic system, that is an electronic system for his 68 race car, his Camaro. It's an electronic system.
And how much was that?
Part of it was $515.44. The other part is $281.85.
Does that, Mr. Slater, have a familiar ring to it?
I know exactly what the Jacob system is.
No, but does that bill?
Yeah, the bill, no, I know exactly what it is.
Well, then tell me about it, sir.
Well, during the time that we were living together, I went ahead and we were building my race car, or at the time we were building it.
What do you mean we were building your race car?
They were helping me purchase items for my car.
Yeah.
And during that time, I purchased an electronic system for making the car run proper, and I went ahead, ordered it with their consent, and when it came in, as time came on, I gave money for it over a period of time.
So you're telling me that you paid it all off?
I'm not saying I paid everything, because a lot of the stuff that we had purchased were purchases together.
No, not for your car.
Just a second.
I'm sorry.
Let's just talk about the car. I mean, I read your answer, and you seem to say, I don't owe her anything. That these were things that were purchased sort of as a couple.
A lot of stuff was purchased as a couple, yes, but as the car, over the course of time that I've lived there, I have paid money to the credit card companies
How
direct.
much? Show me.
This here, what I have in my hand is basically a check register on two different things that shows documentation.
I'm not interested in your check register, sir.
Well, what I'm saying is this here shows what I paid, when I paid, and amounts.
It shows nothing. Canceled checks show what you paid.
Okay, well, I can get canceled checks, but I did not get any, no.
Well, where did you think you were coming today, sir? To a ball? You were
Well-
coming to court. What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a store manager.
Which means that you know something about business.
Correct.
Right? You can take a check register and sit down and do it almost like a novel. Write whatever you want in there. That's why we use canceled checks as proof. What is that? That is nothing. A
No.
check register is a nothing. How much did he pay in total on your credit card?
I don't know. I didn't include any of the ones that he had paid.
None?
No.
And what about you, Cammie?
He gave me about $140. That went to, he took my car to Bakersfield.
Whatever. He gave
And
you about
used my gas card.
$140.
Yes,
Can I
it
see some of
wasn't
these?
credit
Now I
cards.
want to take a look at some of the charges.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, just the whole
These-
package. Yeah.
There's letters in there saying, we highlighted some
I don't
parts
want the
for you.
letters. I just want to see
Okay. It just says that he's going to pay us. So I didn't know that particular one right there on top.
Jacob's Electronics ignition system, $515. Is that you?
That was mine.
Okay. How about a trip to Texas airfare? What is that?
When we were dating, we were going to plan a trip to go to my father's house, and I didn't have the money at the time, and she made the arrangements with my job. She went ahead and purchased the tickets for me, Cammie, and my daughter, and we flew out.
This was for me to go back and meet his family, to meet his family.
Is that what the trip was intended for, sir?
It was just supposed to be a trip for all of us to go visit, because I haven't seen my father in quite a few years.
Well, why should she pay for that?
It was a gesture. She said, okay, and then I was going to
Stupid
pay
one.
part of it.
You were going to pay part of it?
Yeah, I was.
How much?
As much as my plane ticket was.
And what about your daughter?
Well, we hadn't talked about that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Pay $72 to get your hair styled. They're ripping you off, sir.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cammie Holman says she thought she loved 24-year-old Jeffrey Slater until she realized he was conning her and her mother, Lois Teeters. Jeffrey denies the allegation.
We have something here. Spark plugs.
Yeah, he bought new spark plugs and wires for his car, Excel. It was at an auto parts store. Hey, they wouldn't take his check.
Is that you, sir? Spark plugs.
Yes,
Does that
probably.
sound familiar? Why don't you
could be.
pay your own bills? Why are you relying on these two ladies to pay your bills?
During that particular thing there, they would not accept a check from me at that time for whatever reason.
So why don't you just give them cash? Everybody accepts cash.
I didn't have cash on me.
Well, why don't you just go to the bank and get cash?
Well, we were going to, but Cammie said, well, why don't we just put it on my charge and then you can pay me back.
You said, can we just use your charge instead of having to leave and go to the bank and come back?
All right. Look, there came a time when you left, right?
Yes.
Why?
Things were working out between us, and I decided, you know, things were going to work out for the long term, and I wanted to get out of there. And then after I left, I mean, things started getting more hectic. I had to have the cops called on her at my job.
Why is that, sir?
Because he hit me and threw me on the ground and left bruises, which the bruise pictures are at home. We accidentally forgot him.
When she came in my job, she come in ranting and raving because she didn't want me to leave, first of all. And
because you owe my
I
mom
said,
money.
okay. She came in just ranting and raving because I was leaving. She didn't want me to leave. And then after she hit me, I defended myself and pushed her to the ground. Yes, I did. And then after that, I got up, grabbed the phone to make a phone call to the police. And at that time, when I started coming up, she comes around our counter bin and hangs up the phone. And then grabs me by the hair and just yanks a ton of hair
not
out.
what happened.
And then during that time, you know, then she's saying, well, you owe my mom this, you owe my mom that, and I want it this and that. And then my phone rang. I finally got away from Cammie. And when the phone rang, I answered the phone, and it was the Fullerton Police Department when they had to come out and take her.
How much after you left did this incident occur? Assuming, sir, that what you say is true, how much after you left did she come to your job?
Oh, she came to my job a couple times, but we had numerous amount of phone calls during the day. And then what finally ended up happening after I had the cops come, I had to leave that job and go to a whole different area and get away from them because of the phone calls and everything else. I was in the verge of losing my job because of it.
And how much money have you sent to both plaintiffs since you left?
Since I left?
Yes.
Not specifically to them, but that I sent to the credit card companies are probably around maybe $800 or so.
Just a minute. $800?
Roughly.
Show me the last bill here. And now, in what month did you leave, sir?
May.
Now take out your last check register. I love it when a game plan comes together. Your last check register, sir, since May.
This particular one right here is one of the last ones that I made.
The last bill that came from NBA and stuff, I think. Is what
May. What date did he leave?
May 1st.
May 1st.
That's what time I told him to get out. He came.
Just a second. Shh. Is your credit card MBNA?
That's mine.
That's yours. All right. So here we have MBNA, $140. And then we're going to go down, and I'm going to see if I can find after May the rest of the $800. Let's see here. I must be missing something.
It might be right in April, too, when I paid some money.
We're not talking about April. I'm talking about since you left, sir.
Well,
I speak English. Do you speak English?
Yeah.
You said after May, after you left, you gave her about $800, and that your check register is accurate. So I see May 15th, $140. I'm just looking for the rest of the $800. I see one in July to a Powerhouse Gym for $350.
No,
Mr. Slater?
That's something else.
That's something else.
And that might be not the most current one because I had to change bank accounts.
No, this goes, sir, through all of the months. June, July, August, this does
I know,
everything.
but I have 2 different checking accounts.
Sir, you see anything written on my forehead? Huh?
No.
Who's Nicole?
My hairstylist.
Pays $72 to get your hair styled.
He pays for his
They're ripping you off,
girlfriends
sir. Well, so far, sir, all I see of the $800 is $140. Nothing else. I see another $380 for your gym. Spend a lot of money between your haircuts and gym. Nothing for what you owe.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Sir, you have to take responsibility for what you do. These people are not related to you by blood. They are not related to you by marriage.
Thank God.
You had a relationship with this young lady. She thought it would work out. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. In any event, you spent a lot of their money. Not only did you spend it, you enjoyed it, and you have the fruits of it. You're driving around in a car, unless you sold it, that they fixed. You're wearing nice clothes that they paid for. You have a nice stereo system that you listen to. And on and on and on, based on these bills that you say you saw. So you owe them the money. And your excuse that you didn't have an agreement with them is just a lot of baloney. I mean, I don't think that these are ladies that have an awful lot of money. And I think, furthermore, your conduct, knowing that you owe them the money and spending in 2 months' period of time almost $800 on a gym and $70 to get your hair coiffed is a lot of nerve. So the judgment in the case is for one plaintiff in the amount of $3,000 and the other in the amount of $4,900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She's a very jealous person, but that's besides the point.
I also have witnesses that saw him the night I found out he cheated on me. He took my head and shoved it in the car seat. But that's a different story. I'm out of that relationship, and I'm glad because I'm still alive.
Stole 2 pieces of Tupperware, and her son ruined their computer.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please, all rise. Your Honor, this is case number 134 on the calendar in the matter of Apolinario versus Madizone. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat.
You folks rented a room in your home to the defendant, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And your complaint alleges that her little boy broke a computer?
That's right.
There's a very short piece about the computer in your complaint. And a very long piece about a piece of Tupperware that she took.
Here they are.
So, it says that you rented one of your master bedrooms in your home. Why did you decide to do that?
For extra money, Your Honor.
Did you put an ad in the paper?
Yes, we put it in the ad in the papers.
And she responded to the ad?
She responded to the ad, and she seems to be a nice person. And on the first day, she told us, you know, it looks like that she already knew us. You know, she tell us a lot of stories about her problems, even the first meeting. So we
you
thought she's a
decided
nice
to rent her a
person,
room?
you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
And you were living there with your son?
I was.
How old is your son?
He was 4.5. And when I responded to the ad, I talked to them. I wanted to meet them and see if I can trust them and everything like that. And they lied to me. They told me that they only have 3 kids and a niece that living in that house. And then I found out when I was already living there were like 11 people with 2 sisters and 2 children of each.
So why didn't you move out?
I moved out because...
No, why didn't you immediately when you found out that there were so many people there? If that bothered you, why didn't you leave?
Right. I was in the middle of job change. And it was so many furnitures. I have a lot of things in the storage and a lot of stuff that I have to move. And it was a hassle because I got a new job nearby to that house in that city. So I thought that I can have a good relationship with them.
Fine. So it didn't make any difference to you that there were so many people living there?
Right.
You stayed there?
I did.
All right. Now let's get to the broken computer. This is not a big deal. You had a son. How old is he?
He was 4.5.
You say he broke your computer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Who saw him do that?
I got a witness, my daughter, who was inside the room at the time.
How old are you?
8.
8? What is your name?
Angeline.
Angelina? Come up here. Have a seat. Can you get up there? Sure you can. Hi.
Hi.
Did you go to school?
Yeah.
I have a few questions to ask you, okay? Because you're only 8 years old, so I have to find out whether I can swear you to take an oath in court. You're very pretty. Are you nervous?
No.
Don't be. What grade are you in school?
Second, but I'm gonna be in 3rd.
Do you have a best friend in school?
Yeah.
Did you ever tell a fib?
No.
A lie?
No.
Did you ever tell a lie to your folks? To your mom, to your dad?
No.
Even a little one?
No.
Not even a little one?
Yeah.
When you told a little lie to your mom and dad, did you get punished?
Yeah.
Now, if I were to tell you that this was a duck, would that be the truth or a lie?
Lie.
Because it's what?
About that.
Now, Angelina, if I were to tell you that the judge, you know, that's me, right, is a young, beautiful woman, would that be the truth or a lie?
Truth.
Yes! Very smart little girl. Very smart little girl. Okay. Could you do me a favor, and I'm going to let you sit there. Can you raise your right hand? You know your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know this lady's little boy?
Yeah.
What's his name?
DJ.
Did you see him do anything to the computer?
Yeah.
What did you see him do?
He put the disk in the computer.
And did something happen to the computer after he did that?
Yeah, it broke.
How do you know it broke, Angelina?
Well, I didn't really check it, but my brother told me it was broken.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
But listen to me, you're
Your
not
Honor,
going to waste my time with
I got a
Tupperware that's worth
witness.
$3.
Not even. It's at my cost. It's only $1.65.
And later today,
All she could do was stand there and let him abuse me after 8 years of friendship.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Marissa Madazon, a 34-year-old travel agent, says she should not be responsible for damage that Amante and Emma Apolinario say her son caused to their computer.
Now, did you have a discussion with the defendant about this computer?
Yes, Your Honor, and many times she agreed to repair it. She even called her friend to look at it. And all I was
Did you do that?
Yes, I tried, but I told them that I cannot accept it. But they are all over me and telling me that my son is the youngest, that he's the only one capable of destroying that computer.
Yes, go ahead.
She's a liar.
No.
She keeps on promising us, especially me. She told me before, after she moved out, after June 15, she went back to my house. And she said, I asked her, where is the parts that you want to buy for our computer? She said, oh, I already ordered it. I already ordered it,
Did you
and it's
tell her
my
that?
mind. That's
Did
my
you tell
responsibility.
her that you had already
That's
ordered
what
the
she said
parts?
to me.
Shh. Did you tell? Listen to me. Did you tell her that you had ordered the parts for the computer?
I said I will order it.
Okay. Well, then you agreed to pay for it. How much were the parts?
It's $100 something.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I thought that the CD-ROM was the only defective, but it wasn't the CD-ROM that was defective.
Sir, you didn't pay all that much money for the whole computer.
I did.
No, you didn't.
What happened is, when they told me that the computer is broken, the computer is all over, I mean, it's torn apart.
Bottom line is you agreed to pay for the parts.
This is what I
Period.
said.
You agreed to pay for the parts. Now, how much were the parts that you agreed to pay for?
It's $125.
Okay. Next, what's about this Tupperware? Tell me about the Tupperware.
Can I just say something before
No, tell me about the Tupperware.
Okay.
I'm getting frustrated.
Well, she went On June 15, was it June 15? Yeah.
June 15, she left the house, and then she went back. She left Sunday. She went back Wednesday, and me and my husband and my kids are there, supposed to be leaving, going to church. And she went by, and then
Give me
she
the
said,
Tupperware,
okay,
please.
the Tupperware. She's asking me about the Tupperware. I saw it in the garage. I told her, I never see any Tupperware of yours. What I know is...
What is in the bag, madam?
This is what happened. Before I left on Sunday...
Is that the Tupperware that,
yes,
that
it
you're
is.
wasting my time about? Could I see it, please?
Here.
Yeah, it's funny.
Just a second. Whose Tupperware is that?
Mine.
Both items?
Yes. Okay. And I have more other parts that were stolen from their garage.
That's all I'm hearing.
That's why I wanted to tell you the story. Before I left, I asked her permission if I can leave my boxes because I didn't have any more room in my car, that I can pick them up.
Which, I'm not interested in that. Which of these two items do you say is yours?
All of those are mine. I have a receipt here that I have lots of Tupperware in my house.
She bought my Tupperwares. I'm a dealer for less cost. Less cost of what I bought of my Tupperware, she bought.
Oh, you're not going to listen to me. You're not going to waste my time with
I got a
Tupperware that's worth $3.
I know, that's right.
Not even. Not even. Semi cost. It's only $1.65.
Fine. Would you give? You giving it to her? Perfect. We've resolved the Tupperware.
I have plenty. She bought all my Tupperwares.
We've just resolved the
I'm a dealer.
Tupperware.
Can I say something?
About what?
She come to my house and she got the Tupperware without my knowledge. Without
I told her
knowledge.
needs.
I'm the owner of the house.
Listen to me. Wow.
She admitted.
I couldn't believe when I read this complaint that there were 2 lines about a broken computer and 20 lines about Tupperware. I couldn't understand that. I still don't understand that.
Because
Must
we
be
have a
very
witness, Your Honor.
valuable Tupperware.
Well,
you now
Your
have it back. Quiet. Look, you have to pay them $125. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Big liar.
And now the next case.
Parties on Pinkham versus Crawford. Step forward, please.
26-year-old waitress Catherine Pinkham is suing her former friend and roommate, Chandra Crawford. Catherine claims she was kicked out of their apartment after getting into a fight with Chandra's fiancé.
Okay, you two ladies were long-term friends, I gather. And there came a time when you were living in different parts of the country, but you decided to move to California. Correct? Yes. And you decided to live together. Made arrangements to live together. You were looking for the right kind of place. And you were moving to sunny
California.
Right. But in the meantime, you found a boyfriend.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
So instead of being the 2 of you, it was going to be 3. You should have known right then and there. 2's company.
And 3's a crowd.
So why don't you tell me what happened and what you're suing her for?
Okay, well, I spent over $3,000 just in moving expenses, moving cross country. That is not what I'm suing her for. Basically, it's we made arrangements. We started about 1.5 years ago that we're going to live together as soon as I finish school. I received my degree. I moved cross country. I was in the house from September 8th until the 21st of the month. That night, I realized that, well, actually, I realized little things here and there over a period of time that her boyfriend and I did not get along. I didn't like the way he was treating her.
What was wrong with the way he was treating her?
He tells her what to wear. She waits on him hand and foot. She pays all the bills for him. He has no job. He drives around in her car all day, sits on his butt and watches video games. And I just didn't like the way I ended up paying, like, I was supposed to originally pay 1/3 of the security and 1/3 of the rent. All of a sudden, before I was moving out, oh, can you pay half the security and half the rent? And I'm like, well, what about timeshare? Well, his job didn't come through yet, and da-da-da-da. And basically, I want you to pay half, and then we'll reimburse you. Well,
so did you do that?
I paid half and half, and I have receipts right here.
How much did you pay altogether?
$13.50, and I have all the receipts with her name.
Okay.
And then I agreed to do it as long as he paid me his share back. I never saw the money. And I'm like, I was there for 2 weeks. There were squabbles here and there. They tried to throw me out after 3 days because he disliked my sister. So they didn't like my friend that came out with me that was also helping me in the move. So he decided, because he didn't like my sister and didn't like my friend, he wanted me out. So he tried to throw me out after 3 days, and I stood my ground and I said, listen, you know, I've invested all this money into this place. The last thing I want to do is leave right now. I mean, it was just a big mess. Well, after he barely ever maybe said 2 or 3 words to me at a time.
What happened at the end of September when you left?
What happened the night is I wasn't feeling well one day. We were watching TV. I mentioned there was a commercial on for a pesto crust pizza. I mentioned that I disliked pizza because I was living on the East Coast and that I prefer the pizza on the East Coast better and that I don't recommend eating it. He got up, stormed out of the room, and slammed the door. So I was just sitting there going, okay, what just happened? She came in the room 5 minutes later, Chandra did, and said, you've been bitching all day, about all kinds of things, and, you know, I can tell you don't feel well, and, you know, and I said, listen, Chandra, I said, I'm going to find my own place. It's just not working out because he's just not being very nice to me, and I've made efforts to be nice to him, and it's not working.
Okay, so?
So she went outside and told him that I thought it would be best that I moved out. He wouldn't come into the house, so when she came into the house, I kind of said, well, I don't feel well, but I'm going to go out and run some errands so he can come into the house, and you guys can talk, and I'll come back in a bit. I leave, I come back, I see him tearing down the street in her Jeep. I pull up to the house, she comes outside of the house shaking her head, going, you can't be here in 5 minutes. He said it was either you or him. And I said, you chose him? She goes, yes. And I said, well, can I go into the house and get some of my things? As I was in there, he came back. He was calling me pretty much every profane word you can think of, being very, very rude, getting in my face, threatening me, overpowering me, and, you know, and
so you left that night?
I left that night with nowhere to go.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I wouldn't pour water on her. She was standing next to me on fire.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Pinkham is suing her former friend and roommate, Chandra Crawford, because Chandra and her fiancé kicked her out of their apartment. Chandra and Tom say Catherine violated the terms of the lease.
All right, so far I have $1,350 for security deposit. What else are you suing for? Because the total lawsuit is $1,700.
Okay, I'm also suing for moving expenses for the truck that I had to rent the second day when I went back to get my things.
How much was that?
That's $153. Mm-hmm. And then another $153
for
storage.
What storage?
I had to get a
for
storage
what?
unit to put my things in. I was afraid they were going to be trashed, so I went back the following day with the police to get my things.
All right, Miss Crawford, first of all, where is Dream Boy?
Your Honor?
Where is he?
He's at work.
Got a job?
Yes, ma'am.
When did he get a job?
He was employed the day after she left. She left on a Sunday. He went to work that Monday.
Did he send her any money?
The arrangements to pay her back was between her and I.
So did you send her any money?
I tried to contact her, Your Honor. She never returned my phone calls. She never, after September 29th was the last time I spoke to her on the phone when she called me at work. I said, call me next week, I will make arrangements. She never bothered calling me back. She never left me a forwarding address. I tried on 3 separate occasions.
Did you feel badly about it?
Yeah, I felt horrible. We were best friends for 8 years. I mean, honestly, I really did not know this was going to happen.
But let me ask you this question. Tom clearly, when she was living there, was not employed and was home a good deal of the time, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How long was it that he wasn't employed full-time, that you were supporting him?
Your Honor, I wasn't supporting him.
Who was?
He had part-time work.
Not when she was
about
there.
3 months total.
So it was
but
about
I was
3
not
months.
supporting him. He was drawing off his savings.
So he had savings?
Yeah.
So why didn't he put in the money for his share of the security deposit from his savings instead of asking a stranger for it?
I asked her for it, Your Honor, because we were friends.
But that's not fair. If you have a boyfriend who's got savings, why should you ask her to dip into her meager savings to pay for him? Did you know that Tom had savings?
I did not know that.
Did Tom know that you asked her for money?
Yes, ma'am, he did.
How old is he?
26.
Does he have children?
Yes, ma'am, he does.
How many?
2.
How did I know that? Do you have children?
No, I don't.
How old are you?
28.
Mm-hmm. Where are Tom's children?
His wife and he have joint custody. They're with their mother most of the time.
Was he sending support for his children?
Yes, he was.
When he wasn't working?
Yes, he was. He was drawing it out of his savings.
I don't believe that. Miss Crawford, how long have you been with Tom?
About 6 months.
Keep your eyes open.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
All right, there is no question. I believe her that you threw her out of the house. According to your own answer, you pretty much say, I had to make a choice. Tom or her. I mean, you go through a lot of things here when you say, well, she didn't follow the rules and everything else. But I think that you know that you owe her this money. It's clear to me that your boyfriend clearly didn't like sharing his home with someone who was disapproving of the way he was behaving, especially the way he was treating you. You probably did things that irritated Tom, and that he's had a sense from the way you were acting that you were disapproving. So I can understand him not particularly liking you.
So can I.
But you can't throw her out of the house. You made that choice, so now you got to pay her. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff for the amount requested in the complaint, which is $1,782. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
The night they threw me out, she let him call me every name in the book, treat me like a total and all she could do was stand there and let him abuse me after 8 years of friendship. She totally destroyed it. It made me feel horrible. It breaks my heart, but as far as I'm concerned, you know, it's over, and I don't care to ever see her again.
I wouldn't pour water on her. She was standing next to me on fire.
আমরা চারজন, ওরা চারজন।
ও কাদেরকে চ্যালেঞ্জ দিছো?
আমার বন্ধুদেরকে, বুঝছেন? আপনারা আমার টিমে থাকবেন, ওদের টিমে একটা থাকবেন। আমাকে দেন, আমি কাস্টম বানাবো।
কাস্টম বানাবা? তাহলে ফ্ল্যাগ তোমাকে দিব?
হ্যাঁ, দেন।
আমি বানাই, আমার দেন, আমার থেকে কাস্টম সেভ করা আছে, আমার দেন।
ভাই আমি সেটা জানি, আমি জানি কিভাবে বানাইতে হয়। দেখো
ভাই আমার থেকে সেভ করা আছে বললাম, আমার তো 1 সেকেন্ডে হয়ে যাবে। আমি জানি না, আমি জানি না কি নতুন
পোলার বাই সার্ভারে। আমি হ্যাঁ ট্রিপল এর সার্ভারে।
2019 বেঙ্গলি নিয়ে তুমি আমার নিয়ে নতুন প্লেট মনে করো।
খুললে তাড়াতাড়ি খুলে ফেলো, আমাদের আবার অনেক কাজ আছে আজকে, গেম খেলতে হবে।
মুকুল ভাই লাইভ স্ট্রিমে ঢুকবো নাকি?
ঢুকে পড়ো।
ওকে, তো হ্যালো, দাঁড়ান আমি চালু করি।
কাস্টম কথা বলছো, কাস্টমের কথা বলছো।
আপনি যদি এই কথাটা ওকে না বলতেন, আমি 10-15 দিন পর চেক করব। ঠিক আছে, এই কথাটা যদি আপনি না বলতেন তাহলে হয়তোবা 10-15 দিন পর বা 1 মাস পর যদি হচ্ছে অন্য জায়গায় আইডি ব্যাক করে তাহলে কিন্তু ধরা খাইতো। এখনো কিন্তু ধরা খাইতেছে না। এখন সতর্ক হয়ে গেছে, ও এখন এই আইডি আসা ছেড়ে দিবে। আর একটা কথা আমি গতকাল বলতে ভুলে গেছি, গতকাল আমাকে যে বলো এটা দেখতে হবে, কথা বলছিল তো কথা কথা সেটা দেখতে হবে। তো আমি শুনলাম আইডি এরকম সমস্যা। এখন ওই দিন বললাম না 5000 টাকা লাগবে, আপনি তো গতকাল কি
স্টার্ট করে হয়
যদি আইডি আনলক করে রাখে, এখন তো মানুষ সেটা কোথায় আনলক করে রাখে, মানুষ কোথায় মানে তো বুঝতে পারছেন। মানে ওই ছেলে প্রথম দিন তো রাত্রে আপনার কাছে আর কি ওই ছেলের কাছে আইডি সেল করে দিলাম। এরপরের দিন হচ্ছে বিকাল দিকে হচ্ছে টান দিল,
স্টার্ট কি করবে নাকি?
ডাক্তার ভাই কি ধাপ ধুপ করে ঢুকে পড়েছে, ভয় পেয়ে গেছি।
তাই
কি স্ট্রিম করে নাকি?
ভিডিও রেকর্ড করতেছে আর কি।
ধরো আমি কি রোস্টিং মজা
রোস্টিং হবে।
ধরো ভালো করে ধরো, বউ ব্যবসা ধরো।
ভাই 11 বছরের মায়াডারে রোস্টিং করেন ভাই, ওই যে পুরো বাংলাদেশ কাঁপাই দিয়ে গেছে।
বেশি পিসি
হ্যাঁ
হয়ে যায়, পিসিটার রোস্ট করে আর কি করে।
চকলেট ভাই তো কন্টেন্ট অভাব পড়ছে, পিচ্ছি বলে মানে রোস্ট করবো, তাই না?
না ভাই শুনো একটা কথা ভাই, এই সিম্পাতি দিচ্ছে ভাই সবাই, বুঝছো, যারা যারা পোস্ট করছে ওরা সব আবার ডিলিট মারছে পোস্ট। আর কি কমো ভাই, আমার অনেকগুলো ফ্রেন্ড আছে ওই পোস্ট করছিল, আবার পরের দিন কি রে ভাই ওগো প্রোফাইলের ভিতরে পোস্ট নাইগা, ওই যে হারাই গেছে। কি কমো তোমার,
এই হচ্ছে অবস্থা।
কি করছে ওগুলা? কাস্টম খেলবি? হ্যাকার এলিগেশন খাইতে খাইতে শেষ জীবন ভাই। তো একটা সার্ভারে গেছিলাম গেম খেলতে, পোলাপান কয় হ্যাকার, ভাই কষ্ট মষ্ট করে স্ক্রিনশট দিছি ভাই, পুরা পিসি চেক দিছে, হান্দাছে ভাই, প্রাইভেসি ভাই প্রাইভেসি কিছু দেখেনি, কইছি ভাই প্রাইভেট হোল্ডার ঢুকা যাবে না, কইছে না তোর ঢুকতে হইব, ভাই কি আর কব।
এই ভাইয়ের রুমের ভিতরে বাইক নাকি ভাই?
হ্যাঁ ভাই সব করে ভাই, জানো না?
কি রে
কই আরেকজন, কই আরেকজন, কই
ভাইয়ের বউ নাই, বাইক নিয়ে ঘুমায় জন্য। আরে ভালো কথা শুনো ভাই, কোম্পানি আছে, ফাইনাল কোম্পানি, ইয়া মিস চকলেট নাম, এটা হচ্ছে মিস্টার চকলেট, ওর নাম হচ্ছে মিস চকলেট।
উফ না,
বুঝো নাই, বুঝো নাই?
নিশ্চয় করে ভাই, আল্লাহ
কি
ডাবল
কি কোম্পানির নাম দিয়েছে?